Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is if you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. Failure happens to us all, but this is how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is will you get back up when you fall. You better get up. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. I need you to get up. Get up. You witnessing a champ in the making, fueled by your passion for greatness. Yeah, but adversity and bad situations meet us in the middle of the paths that we taking. But it's what you do after that makes men. Will you quit it? Will you stand up and face it? Tell me, do you have what it takes to swing back when this life asks for the fade? Can you tell me you'll adapt to the change when the punch lands and it puts you flat on your face? After you wake, will you stand up and say, get mad, hit back, lit match to the flames? Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is if you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. Failure happens to us all, but this is how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is will you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. I need you to get up. Get up. fact, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. Raising the belly of the beast. There were days where I barely had sleep, but I had to work more than competition. I can't live like the opposition. Living everything I dreamed of, doing everything you think of. The way I work, I'm on the brink of doing everything you dreamed of. Only aim for perfection, ain't no half stepping. I'm gonna take you back, spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who want it? No problem, we mob it. In the city, plenty havoc causing. Do or die, it's either all or nothing. Best believe I'm leaving out with something. Anytime I got the crowd jumping, throwing rage, you know they fist pumping. I'm the king of dysfunction. What would you do if you had my life? Work like me, had those stripes. Would you go hard just to have that ice? Lot of dudes still trying to have that price. Either yo, cooking about to add that spice. Nowadays, dudes never had that fight. When the push bill, better burst your pipe.
بالفعل وبالمخطوط العراق موجود معانا ليخلص بالفعل تواجد الاي سبورت
تكسر الوضع تاع اوبا حاليا على غرب لوحده بالصراط
هذا الليد لم يكن في مكان مناسب. سيكتور يا سيكتور يا سيكتور يا سيكتور.
Welcome everyone here to the second day of the final weekend here at the PMPL Arabia Full Split for the 2022 Esports season. My name is Highland Wolf, and if you are just joining us, welcome to the competition. And it is going to be an action-packed day because there's a lot of deciding games here for us to play. But let us know, of course, throughout the stream too, who you are rooting for using the hashtag PMPL Arabia on, of course, YouTube if you're watching here, or even on Facebook and TikTok as well. It isn't just me, though, of course, casting today. I am joined once more by the beautiful Imperium for what will be, I think, a very important day for a lot of these teams.
It is indeed day 2 of the final Super Weekend, and a lot of weight on the world for a number of teams as they try and vie for a position in the top 16 moving on to the finals. We will get through it all, of course, but the biggest team that we're clearly looking at, in my opinion, and I don't know if you agree, Highland Wolf, is VISTA Gaming. They went on the tear for the majority of the games yesterday, ending on a massive 35-point chicken dinner in the final game of the day.
Look, I think Vista, I said before, and we said all throughout the last Super Weekend here in Imperium, they need those points. They need to keep it up, though, as we have to check out our format, of course, of where those teams like Vista Imperium are going to. So right now, as we said, we're in the Super Weekend, our final one, and all of the points for the last 3 Super Weekends are being accumulated into our last 2 days here, but the final top 16 at the results we have at the end of yesterday, Imperium, those top 16 teams go through to the finals.
They will indeed, and with a number of teams fighting for it, again, the conversation will go through that who will make it in as we look at the calendar, and we're so far into this tournament. It's kind of wild that we're already into the third Super Weekend. You think that it's like calendar-wise a month-long tournament, but man, these days go by quickly.
Yeah, I just feel like we are zooming already into those finals later this July, of course, 21st to the 23rd. So we do have a short break, keep in mind, between now and our final Super Weekend to the finals. But I think Imperium, as you said so far, the teams are going, it's such a fast pace throughout this tournament, it feels like, and they are earning so much money too when it comes to that potential prize pool. Cannot forget is $150,000 up for grabs across the entire tournament. $2,500 going to go to every single one of our teams, regardless of their result. Plus, of course, still another $10,000 this weekend to grab through each of our winner chicken dinners, $1,000 each.
At the moment, GEEKAY currently hold on to the highest money earned with 7 chicken dinners, so that makes it $7,000 across the Super Weekend games. They didn't win any yesterday. It was the side of VISTA to pick up $2,000. They got the most. OOREDOO Thunders are on 3 themselves. So there's still, $10,000 up for grabs, as well as that separate money in the finals for the top 16 teams.
Yeah, and of course, these teams as well, Imperium, we're starting to see what could be potentially our last couple days of some of them, and that's unfortunately the sad fact about it. But teams who do, unfortunately, need to pick up the paces, we're kind of looking here at all our 16, but zooming in with a microscope on squads, as we said, like Vista, but also teams like the only one, SKYROCKET, 90th minute here, Imperium.
Yeah, it's any team down from arguably OOREDOO Thunders to 90th minute. So OOREDOO Thunders, Team FALCONS, SKYROCKET Esports, the only one Esports, CONQUEROR, and indeed 90th minute. VISTA Gaming are technically in the mix, but again, their mountain is still massive to climb. The teams up at the top, such as GEEKAY, Major Pride, NIGMA, and NASR, it's really kind of hard to talk about them in terms of this PMPL full split, because they're kind of already solidified for the finals. They could be using these Super Weekend games to test out different rotations, test out different positionings, test out different level of comms. The one caveat, the one kind of the one kind of element that can come into play, even though it hasn't been confirmed, this is speculation, is those PMGC points, right? Who's in
Yeah.
between the PMGC points? Do they matter for this full split, right? Will it add up towards the spring split? If it's like last year, then yes, all the points secured in this super weekend will count along with the spring split points. So it's definitely interesting how much of that is on the team's mind.
Yeah, of course, these teams and these points as we talk about it. The overall standings is what we're mentioning. Imperium, of course, GEEKAY with those 7 winner chicken dinners, as we already said too. But Major Pride and NIGMA still, I think, fighting for kind of that second and third position. I still think, regardless of all of these teams sure making it through, I can not only be impressed by GEEKAY Esports and their 417 points.
Yeah, it's very healthy. It's very healthy indeed, and it's even a solid balance of placing points to elimination points. I do
Right.
have to give a lot of respect to Major Pride though. Yesterday,
Yes.
they were very aggressive in the lobby. They kind of were dominating a number of games coming in from the west, and you can see their balance is far more weighted on the elimination points. And to me, that's a good thing, right? Because if they can, if they know and they recognize that they can and will tidy up their level of control coming into the late game, coming into the finals, and they still hold on to that aggression and those kind of elimination hungry moments, they will be able to thread that needle and find a lot of success in the finals.
Yeah, and I think NASR could be the opposite to that conclusion, where they are really the only team there with more kind of placement points to Imperium compared to those elimination points.
That's true, but it's important that they're able to win a lot of their fights, because when it's all said and done, the finals are going to be so much more competitive, right? Teams are going to be so much more unforgiving. They're going to be making as little mistakes as possible, especially those top teams. So if you want to be one of those top teams, such as NASR, you got to be able to kind of hold yourself down and control your position rather than kind of maybe run away and pick off what could be the weaker team. So yeah, I am a little bit more worried for Nasser in that regard.
And of course, we take a look at our second page show, Imperium, and this is where the teams who are starting to talk about feeling sometimes a bit worried for them. Yeah, sure, squads at the top of this page, such as POWR, 4K, RTG, very likely safe. But down on that bottom half, Falcons, Rocket, the only one all kind of fighting for their own space still here.
Even though Road to Glory are only 13 points ahead of Ardu Thunders, the reason why I kind of don't put them in the threatening mix of dropping out of the bottom
Yeah.
16 at the moment is because they've moved ahead of Rad, and Rad are not playing in this super weekend. They're watching and they're kind of biting their nails, hoping that the teams below them trip up. There's only 27 points dividing the only one esports in 16th to Rad in 12th place. And if you go further down, as we will, to the current bottom 4, CONQUEROR are on a total of 155 points. They're only 1 point behind the only one esports.
Yeah, I think that we came into the Super Weekend Imperium and we were saying, well, Rad, it doesn't really matter if they don't make it. But after yesterday, a lot of those teams at the bottom of our leaderboard were starting to find their footing again. And VISTA were one of those teams who very dominantly performed in a few of our games yesterday, picking up already 2 chicken dinners in their first day alone.
It was very positive from them, very positive indeed. 66 points in 5 games is not to be sniffed at, and it puts them on a current average of 13.2 points per game. That's higher than the first place team, but notably they've played far less games, so that
Yes.
will average out within reason. If they do stick on target with 66 points per day, that will put them on a total of 198 points at the moment, higher than Rad. But again, when you have 90th minute still a bunch of points ahead of them, Conquer Iraq and the only one esports still also kind of a bunch of points ahead of them. Vista Gaming need to continue to pick up the pace, pick up the pressure, and pick up those good results.
Look, I'm going to need the energy to do so, and what better way than, of course, Monster Energy, our official energy drink partner of the tournament Imperium. And I think some of those specific teams going to have to also get themselves those chicken dinners, of course, for victory. What better way than, well, yourselves also picking them up with the Grand Banquet in-game and getting ingredients to make more dishes. Let's share and spread our happiness for our 20 teams, as well as our group purchase draw Imperium, where you can at home get a discount, draw for a discount for free every single day. Imperium, I'm feeling like some of these teams surprise me. And I think one that stands out is Conqueror more so because they're a veteran organization. But on the other hand, they are still in that relegation zone. And understandably, things have changed from split to split. But I think we expected coming into this tournament a lot more than the Conqueror we're seeing so far.
Yes, to give an element of credit away from Conqueror, the competition between the spring split and the fall split is higher. So that's going to put more pressure on not only Conqueror, but all of the teams. However, to be brutally honest, and to take that away,
Yeah.
I expected so much more for Conqueror. They should not be fighting down in the bottom of the standings. They should not fundamentally be in this position. Middle of the pack, yeah, that can kind of make sense. You look at R8, they're not exactly, well, actually, no, they are in fourth, but they've been in moments down and towards the middle of the pack. Team Falcons right in sixth. That's fine. But to be as low down and at the moment, currently out of the top 16, that shouldn't be the case. And whether it's 1 point or not, Conqueror need to pick up the pace. They know it more than anybody else, but it's still important that we continue to highlight it. So Conqueror, it to me, it's kind of more of that unfortunate reliance on Miramar that's maybe gone against them. They've struggled at moments, a lot of moments, obviously, on Erangel. And yes, Sanhok has been a bit of a plus for them. But again, unless they become more consistent, more fluid on Erangel, they will continue to be towards the bottom of the standings.
Yeah, I think it's that kind of higher composition that you said. And to note about Erangel specifically, I think these new organizations, still built of veteran players such as GEEKAY, have very much dominated the likes of Erangel, Major Pride in that mix as well. I mean, GEEKAY, you look towards their 7 chicken dinners Imperium, about 4 to 5, at least 4 I know of, have been there on Erangel and from the second Super Weekend. So a lot of competition on those other maps for sure too. But as we check out overall schedule for today, Erangel sandwich once more, and it is still looking a juicy series of 5 games. Miramar, Sanhok in between for that extra spice, that extra little chunk of, I think, added flavor, we could say. And I think especially Miramar, as much as we talk about it, and Erangel as much as we talk about it too, Sanhok has equally been such a volatile map, and it's kind of, in a way, regardless to say that, because we always expected Sanhok to be so volatile of a map itself. But on the other hand of that, we've seen so much more in terms of whether it be YALLA versus the new organization of GEEKAY in boot camp once again, or different rotations that have certainly affected teams coming through on that map, and especially in week 2.
Whether it's 1 map a day or 3 maps a day, yes, the higher amount of Erangels mean that technically, statistically, it becomes a more important map to focus on. But having Sanhok on the calendar, on the map schedule, still makes it an impactful map to gain control of. And yeah, you're right to highlight the bootcamp battle between YALLA and GEEKAY. Both teams kind of do understand that winning or performing well in Sanhok is important for their overall end result. One thing to make note of, and I believe you might have seen it from viewing the games yesterday, GEEKAY did not drop on bootcamp with YALLA. They actually opted to go for that ruin split in that Sanhok map because Rad aren't playing in this Super Weekend. Now, GEEKAY didn't have a good result. Arguably, maybe their pathing needs to be improved from that runes position because it's more south of boot camp, etc., etc. However, for YALLA, it was the best thing they could have asked for because they were earlier out of boot camp, they were earlier rotating north, and arguably a very northern, harsh circles still allowed to control the game, and they got a wonderful chicken dinner result for it. So I hope that kind of says to YALLA, hey, maybe we shouldn't contest GEEKAY. Maybe, even though we have to move and change our pathing spot, maybe we should give bootcamp over to them because we could play Sanhok in the late game much better from a different position.
Yeah, and that's what surprised me because we talked about it at the very start of the tournament, Imperium, and we said we don't understand why Bootcamp and GEEKAY are fighting such as this because this is exactly how YALLA fell down in previous tournaments where teams started seeing their predictability in Bootcamp and their fights, and we saw particularly in the hands of R8 and then also POWR capitalizing on that, and even very early 3-4 minute rotations, for example, by R8 sometimes to actually punish those fights so early.
Exactly. And yeah, okay, Rad at the moment are in the finals. There is certainly a path and a channel to lead down where they don't make it in that could open the door for GEEKAY to take over that runes drops. But that will be then. This is now. And hey, look, Ireland, we're into the first game of the day.
It is first day, and I still think a very important first game of the day. Yeah, sure, we all kind of warm up on our first match of the overall 5, but for teams like, as we said, CONQUEROR, VISTA, and Kodan at the bottom, it is going to be a very important beginning of the day, not only to get the points, of course, but psychologically as well, Imperium. Very important to get off the right foot to put them in the right mindset.
Yes, psychologically, very true. It will always be a big part of the game, and one thing that goes with that is the cushion you're able to create. It's something I highlight time and time again, whether it's a league stage leading into the Super Weekend, whether it's a Super Weekend leading into the finals, and whether it's the finals itself. The easier and the earlier you can create a cushion against the teams behind you, the less pressure you have coming into those final games, which is why I put so much kind of weight on CONQUEROR and their struggle to kind of break out of that bottom standing, and like I said, at the moment be in that 17th spot out of the PMPL finals. They cannot afford to leave it to the final games.
Yeah, and I mean, CONQUEROR particularly have, I think, statistically looked slightly worse towards the later parts of this tournament. I think certainly that week 2, as we said, not having Miramar in that league week, missing out on the Super Weekend there, did affect them a lot on the overall position of their standings, unfortunately falling in that 17th position, clearly knocking their confidence slightly. And I think in terms of also confidence, to go back to this game, a interesting zone here, at least it is on the one hand slightly tricky because it is more southern, it is more Gatka in the center, but these teams very familiar with this type of zone where we've seen it like this before.
Indeed. It's very familiar when you're looking at a phase 1 circle for a lot of these teams. The one element that does come into play is that military island finish that could come through. The one thing is that at least the phase 1 circle kind of complemented the plane path, and the plane path in itself wasn't too painful for the majority of the teams. One thing I noticed and observed is that SKYROCKETs have not opted to go towards North George. They've gone over to Novo. The plane path did make it a little bit harder to get to that North George area, so maybe they felt like it was a little bit easier for them to go to Novo. Plus, when we look at the other games yesterday, I believe bar one game, nobody dropped in around Novo. So again, there was just that level of comfort around going to that Novo area and now rotating from the south side of the map.
Yeah, I think particularly these teams, as they do begin to get settled in, I think it's these rotations as well that are more important for the squads, and where some of them have been slightly let down, particularly in towards that main center part of Gatka, has been an issue for some of these teams. And I also think then on the other hand of that, our team's going to adapt to this trying out new things, of course, in our final 2 days in Imperium, where they have the chance to do so, change up their strategies, because some of these other teams who need to play in their more predictable manner, that they know how they want to and they know how they can get their own success, could be manipulated. And it's something that we have to start to question in as these points begin to finalize in today and tomorrow.
You highlighted GEEKAY as a team that's very strong on Erangel. Another team that's been pretty strong as POWR Esports. Is that part of the fact that a lot of these circles have been around the southwestern side of the map and they drop split on GEEKAY? Possibly. I'd have to really look back and analyze the percentage of success they've had on Erangel games where the circle has kind of gone against them and they've had to rotate in. But fundamentally, they've still performed very strongly in these Erangel games, showing a lot of aggression, showing a lot of control, and also taking risks along the way, which at times I haven't been confident of or haven't approved of, but they've proven me wrong, and that deserves respect in its own right.
And as these also teams do begin to come towards those finals, I think it is important to note, even though squads such as GEEKAY, such as NIGMA here, aren't really competing for more than, of course, the prize money, which still is important in its own regard, you have to look at now their consistency in terms of their new styles. And NIGMA, something I believe you touched on with Monica yesterday in Pachinki, have kind of felt like a bit lackluster almost, whereas they have been overtaken by teams, they have struggled on rotations more towards these Pachinki facing zones. I'm curious now that, given the fact that they clearly have qualified through to those finals, are they going to change up their way and are they going to be more adaptive?
I think they already have, and I think throughout this PMPL they have been changing up the way they play, and it was evident in the spring split. I think it's just as evident in the fall split. It's why I've kind of also said yesterday it's NIGMA just doing NIGMA things.
Yeah.
They're within reason and entity upon themselves, and even though in one dimension they shouldn't rely on what was the successes of the past in the form of the third place in PMGC. That does afford them a level of trust in this kind of lobby that is arguably even strong, even though it's strong, is weaker than a PMGC final. So we deserve to kind of say, hey, let's trust the process, similar to what we did with Nova in the PMGC East itself.
Right.
So I'm okay with what NIGMA are doing. I'll kind of highlight the weaknesses of a later rotation, but it doesn't take away from the trust that I have in their process leading into the finals.
A few changes, of course, to be noted. For one, for me, I think SKYROCKET instead now going to Nova, whereas OOREDOO, of course, taking more of its military base in the early game. Slightly downwards on that camera as we can see more of these teams rotating through the coastal line at the south of mainland Erangel. I'm also kind of disappointed, in a way, to kind of talk a bit more lightheartedly, Imperium. I feel like we just haven't seen that many South Island finishes, at least for my casting. I feel like it's been more towards GEEKAY a lot, and I'm kind of disappointed. I want to see some more tricky bridge crossings. I want to see these teams pressured, because it feels like it's been ages since we saw bridge issues.
You're right, man. Yeah, I think we've only had one, maximum two across the Erangel games of PMPL, and yeah, okay, the Southwest initial circles do threaten the military island finish, but indeed we haven't really seen too many core ones. Now, Vista Gaming, you can see they're trying to send back the likes of the only one across the South Pachinki hillside, putting on a bit of pressure from this compound that is quite well balanced between the coastal line and that Pachinki hill position. Once they make noise, puff up their chest, they will create that space. The phase 1 blue zone starting to close in. We still have a couple of teams inside the blue RTG up and towards the north. We see SKYROCKET down on the southwest.
NASR as well, controlling a few of these teams, as we said, rotating at the end of its phase 1 into phase 2 now. A few of those locating him inside of GEEKAY. GEEKAY feels itself. GEEKAY going to be heading from their direction from here, Sanhok, in towards that location. A lot of teams, though, very centered in on this zone. I've been almost more surprised that they have been so controlled in their aggression, though. It always impresses me in, I think, PMPL Arabia more so Imperium, because they all take these center points But then on the other hand, bit of fight actually. They has such control over their own positions.
Great by NASR to have a 3-1 split, and you saw the shots that they were taking on a couple of teams around them.
Yeah.
I believe it was GEEKAY. It just affords them just a little bit more room, and as the next circle will pop up, it will allow them to react a little bit quicker, a little bit more cohesively. They have now joined up as a full squad in this one area. The circle on phase 2 shifts up north. It cluster teams, a lot of traffic now along the south bank side between GEEKAY and Ferry Pier.
Very interesting zone, of course. Not only confirming that it will be away from the south end, OOREDOO now also SKYROCKET's going to have to rotate away from that southern island as the zone comes in behind them. But the fact that not only GEEKAY feels is in play, but you've got the Observatory, you've got Everest, all of these crucial high points inside this zone, even Quarry down the south Imperium, all going to be important factors, as unfortunately as is maybe the first one to fall here in our first game.
I give a lot of credit to POWR Esports on their aggression, on their ability to pull out successful results on Erangel. One of their weaknesses, however, is that they play a little bit too solo at times, where they're not as synergistic, they're not as together in their formations, in their positionings, that they kind of go in onto engages one by one. And there's a little bit of evidence there, right? The scramble of the reaction to the circle, and to me, I don't know who their IGL is, but that does say to me that the IGL isn't doing quite enough of a job to keep the team together in one area, and it's something that they could certainly adjust a bit more heavily coming into the finals.
And the crucial part about this, in the way that the format works in the calendar, Imperium, is that they do have that time to improve. They've got about a week or so where they can make these adjustments. And I think it's even more crucial to the fact that in a tournament-specific format like this, teams can play more with completely new styles if they can afford to in these final days, because they can refine them through that week of outplay.
Of course, to remind you, the teams that we are, within reason, quite heavily keeping an eye on coming into the final Super Weekend is the likes of OOREDOO Thunders, Team Falcons, SKYROCKET Esports, the only one Esports, CONQUEROR, 90th Minute, and the elusive VISTA Gaming. These 7 teams all vying for a top 16 spot, and there's really only kind of 3 spots available out of all the teams that I mentioned. So game by game, we are going to get closer to defining who will be the top 16 teams making it through.
Always just amazes me as well in terms of the requirement of points. I feel like it's gotten higher and higher, Imperium, as we've casted each season of the Arabian region. Now, even 2 super weekends, not really feeling like it's enough, actually. And even Rad at 180 points. I mean, where was it last season, Imperium, that we worried about that type of scoreline?
Oh man, I'd have to look back more aggressively, but the cutoff point for teams 2 super weekends, I'm not quite sure. I will certainly look into it coming in to tomorrow to give us a greater idea. You are right, and it would certainly be on a similar trend to what we saw in terms of the league weeks coming into the super weekends, where compared to the spring split, the cutoff point for the league week qualification was a good bit higher, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if that cutoff point for the top 16 coming into the finals is going to be higher compared to the spring split. Phase 3 about to pop up. It's a lovely donut shift right into the center in between GEEKAY, Quarry, and the fields to the southeast. Most of these teams are inside the circle. It creates a little bit more pressure for the teams who are outside, most notably Falcons, RTG, and R8.
OOREDOO funded SKYROCKET as well. Don't have to worry too much. You can use that kind of south side of the Quarry side of hills, where you've got the Erangel 2.0 features, but also Quarry Hill itself is still open. A lot of teams have moved away from there, so the opportunity to look over GEEKAY fields too. I mean, I'm just kind of happy in one sense that the evil Highland Wolf Curse of GEEKAY fields, or Highland Hills, as we called it last time, Imperium, is back once more. Because apparently you never got GEEKAY fields yesterday, but like every day I cast this season, we've got a GEEKAY finish.
I know, I know. Here's the thing, I didn't even want to bring it up because it's pretty inevitable, right?
Right, exactly.
As
Like,
GEEKAY
of course.
have onto the North Chopsticks compound, a compound that NIGMA held onto extremely well during the League Week 3, if I'm not mistaken. They do have NASR Esports still in the compound to the south of them, and in between them is the only one holding on to a little bit of chopsticks. So these three teams right now don't need to move. They're in good positions. They are a threat of each other, but it's a little bit kind of a truce, right? Where it's kind of like, look, we won't shoot at each other. Let's get rid of all the teams around us, and then we can fight.
And all of these teams are very locked in their positions, of course, in the center of GEEKAY. I actually like the wider positions and kind of South SKYROCKET making that wide rotation around Quarry, kind of avoiding a lot of these teams. On the other hand, though, Northside not playing out too much as well. I mean, I am concerned a bit about Major and R8 kind of coming quite close together currently, as also RTG locked a little bit, and the other hand, as we said, towards that center point. But as we jump towards that north side Imperium, R8 Major Pride, they have met each other indeed.
Major Pride looking to try and control the radio tower. This is outside the circle. I said it was going to be difficult for R8, but I think they made the right call in their timing of the rotation across that northwestern edge of the circle. Plus, Major Pride made a major mistake by not really solidifying much quicker together off the back of that phase 3 shift.
Right, and Nomi, as we said, is so far out of this fight. I mean, only now coming in, but has to completely rush further forward at risk of their own position. Nomi does get 30 knock, and R8 can't confirm that adaptivity of Major, and they will lose the players indeed. There goes the second as SK Ton will fall as well, and R8 now stuck inside the blue. Barely will get the second man alive still, but it's about rotating for now between these two.
Like, Major Pride, it's amazing because they had a bit of a similar situation and a similar game yesterday where they shouldn't have come out on top of an engagement in a successful way, but they somehow did.
Yes.
And it's a little bit similar this time around. They were in no way together, and they had kind of no right of surviving in somewhat as a full squad. But lo and behold, they've been able to do it, and it does show that as a team, they're pushing their own boundaries, and they're still coming out on top of sticky situations.
NIGMA as well, stuck against CONQUEROR, and it ain't looking good for a team that needs those points. They've already lost Calico, who seems to be very on their own. The rest of CONQUEROR on the entire opposite end of this compound. Now Rio also coming in. I'm kind of curious, actually, as to why CONQUEROR was so far ahead, or if NIGMA just crashed.
NIGMA, no, CONQUEROR crashes one player. Just to try and scout it. NIGMA were already there, and they got the swivel on them.
Yeah, Triple as well, finding out the edge of Falcons on this more kind of eastern side of the zone. The only one going to lose one of their players. Falcons as well are down 2. In concerning for Falcons should mean that they have to go back a bit more.
Yeah, they can afford to kind of scale back a little bit on the edge of this hillside, cover their backs a bit more, as the only one are coming in a little bit later. Lots of smokes be thrown out. We'll make the only one aware as they try and drive around. Falcons are committing to the revive? No way you're actually committing to the revive off the back of a team crashing in around you. That's a big mistake.
Falcons are going to pay for it in full, as all of them will fall so swift. Imperium, the only one for quick eliminations, but they too have lost 2 players. And can Triple now come into and capitalize? They seem to be going that way.
Yes, third-party opportunity for a team that came in from the east, controlling the east, and they have that space in front of them. Similar to what I said about the Falcons, scale back, cover the eastern edge, make sure no team crashes in around you, and as they look for the third-party opportunity, they need to push aggressively because time's running out on this Phase 4 Blue Zone closing in.
Yeah, GEEKAY off the elimination feed as well, dying to NASR. So NASR pick up a few, but NASR also fall alongside 90th. As the fight is ensuing elsewhere, but right on our screens, Triple has slowly been pushing in. But here comes the vehicles, looking for the bait and shot. But they will not fire for now. The only one very much focused on the smoke.
There you go. Push is going to go for the push on the vehicle. Clever in the back line. This is wonderful for Triple Esports. Maybe a little bit later than I expected, but as a team, they are crashing in, and down they take the only one.
Brilliant slow approach by Triple allows them to slow to get into the zone. They don't all rush in, take out the entirety of the only one, 0 casualties, and more importantly, Imperium now have the space to themselves. But phase 4 almost now into phase number 5, and they've got to be swift on the rotation.
NIGMA in the center, RTG a little bit to the northeast of them. You have CONQUEROR down to the southeast. VISTA in an absolutely wonderful compound as well, right in the center of the circle. Unfortunately, they have YALLA a little bit to the north. The one thing that VISTA has as an advantage is that all around that southwestern edge, as the circle centers on top of them, they're going to be able to have absolute wonderful pickings onto Major Pride and SKYROCKET if they edge a little bit too slowly towards VISTA. But RD Thunders, it seems like they're going for the crash.
OOREDOO, it's a bold one indeed. Instead going full in, but it's the opposite building though. So they will be able to crash successfully in, but no fight crucially occurs. But VISTA have the high ground. VISTA have the entirety of this compound locked down, and it's up to them to defend it.
Here's the thing. They can coexist. The one thing that RD Thunders have against them is that they only have one building. So if a barrage of nades comes out from the direction of either VISTA or another team, it's going to be so difficult for them to lock down that building, right? Again, because they're all together, possible revals can come through.
However, even more of these teams on the outskirts. It's the eastern edge, as we said. Triple making that big rotation in. Unfortunately, already losing Ali. They're a bit slow in that move, though, in RTG have already spied him, and it's unfortunate now is a lot of smokes, a lot of those utilities had been used in that last engagement. More nades are available to them than the smokes as they lay down the path and try to defend RTG away from the current revive.
POWR down to 2 players on the northern side outside the circle. Lovely pre-shots coming out from Triple Esports amongst the smoke. It's important that they just continue to suppress the likes of RTG off the edge of the circle and push in and make that control their own. POWR go down. It wasn't going to be easy, and they are eliminated.
Triple as well. They've gone for a 2-2 split even. I mean, on the map here, NASR have also spied them. And Triple are outside of the zone currently, very far. And in phase 5, you cannot be caught here outside it, which is why they seem to be pushing hard onto NASR. Find the one. Unfortunately, NASR still struggling with their own knocks versus, I believe, YALLA from inside the zone. And UAS capitalizing, stopping the push for now. But it doesn't solve their problem still if they aren't inside of that safety.
But here's the thing, that doesn't matter because they are doing the best job in the world of creating that space to enter the circle, push in onto the vehicle. He gets out of it, finds another knock at the NASR Esports, and this is perfect for Triple Esports Highland Wolves.
And they get rid of Batika as well, far on the edge, and NASR being ruined in on this northern face, and they do get inside of the zone. That was a crucial part. SKYROCKET as well, fighting now on the other flank of Major Pride, right on the edge of the zone. The nades come in, and Nomi is on the bottom of the hill, and he's being bombarded.
This is an important engagement for SKYROCKETs. They're looking to try and create that cushion coming into the top 16. Bunch ahead of the pack. They had a great start to yesterday's games. A grand total of something like 66 points across the 5 games yesterday. But they need to continue to follow it up.
They need to get into this zone, and it's step 1. Remove Major Pride from the equation. Now very close together, Major. Frozen keeping themselves alive, barely at the edge of that nade. Nomi as well, taking the edge of the fire. Frozen heals back up just in time. But Triple still on the move forwards. Triple R as SKYROCKET stepping back a bit more as Major Pride returning to fire.
Both teams are pretty damn sure that there's a team in the compound to the east of them, so they need to keep it as much of an isolated fight as possible. They can smoke to the side of them to try and slow that third party back, but it's not going to be easy as a pre-nade. Oh my god, RRR takes out Rip of his own.
And they sacrifice a player there, Major, to make sure they get one themselves back. But unfortunately, it might be to their own deficit, as they're going to lose a second, lose a third. Maybe here as Frozen will also fall, and Major completely wiped in the back end. The bottom team stepping up as SKYROCKET makes 6 eliminations so far.
Overall, good engagement from SKYROCKETs with the vehicle, but unfortunately, a slight bit of miscommunication nearly took them out of it. YALLA are being pushed. Triple Esports once again continue to be proactive, continue to make moves, and although they are under a bit more pressure than previously, they're dealing with it beautifully.
And Triple now sidelining away Yalla. Look, 9 eliminations for them to Imperium. They are making a stand in this first game of the day, but we've got more to go. They've got the smoke road across. Yoaz steps out of the smoke into the fire. Yalla and Triple, a major mistake as Sanji blows them down, but it is a bait at least, sacrificing her life, at least for the rest of Yalla. Yalla down to 6.
There was no need to lose a player. Triple E Sports will still appreciate the proactivity. It's going to whittle you down to most likely 2 players. The SKYROCKET's player on the underside. The circle of phase 6 is closing in. Great spray by Triple R.
Down to that solo player, Imperium, Triple. SKYROCKET have caught them, and this is not the time to have made that fight versus Yellow, as you say, as aggressively. But on the other hand, aggression is the name of the game. By OOREDOO, it's VISTA they've got to defend right now, but they've already lost their front line of 1 man. Sunrise is on the side flank, making it work. Barely dodges out to death from the nade above. Dino now steps in to cover for the fight, and VISTA proactively using their members to burn away the members of OOREDOO.
Hopefully NIGMA Galaxy can get involved on a bit of a third party and get the pinch onto OOREDOO Thunders. The blue zone is about to close in the next 40 seconds. Highland Wolf as a molly comes out. VISTA Gaming looking for the swivel. They're looking for the squad up on the underside, and they are back to find it.
Brilliant work by VISTA. They capitalize on the health bars of each of their players, Imperium. They use each player correctly to come in and out of the fight as required. And now Sunrise goes in for the final flush. Comes out with the auto. Finds the 3 players with a grenade too. And VISTA making it work in this first game.
VISTA Gaming, come up on board, my friends. Up into the top 3, up to 7 eliminations. They're outside the circle, just about inside, actually, as it happens. They've NIGMA to the right of them. They've SKYROCKETs up to the north of them. This is a 3-way dance, and it's anybody's game.
SKYROCKET, so I've been on an absolute tear this match. Imperium, 9 eliminations for them as well. They have every single player up. They have the center of the zone. Enigma are in beside VISTA as the neighbors each find each other. And now Lord looking for the flank round. Down on the balcony comes a low down shot. And VISTA just outplays Enigma with the help of SKYROCKET, dodges away. In that station now still alive.
Oh my god, that wasn't really playing him. That was a little bit of luck, but Easy comes in and says, oh, I got 1, I'm gonna find a 2nd.
Oh, and that station is already down. Nigma still crawling from the nade. Bit first occurred. SKYROCKET, they're searching for the win. They've got everything they need. They have the momentum. Now comes the nade. Another one by Easy. Will miss Hamodi. Sunrise on the backside of the wall. Both of them separate teams, but they're all next door to each other. But Easy doesn't matter. Easy gets the job done.
Easy does, Easy goes, and now it's just 2 players left for VISTA Gaming.
Now VISTA looking for the final flush. It's a 2-on-3. They look for the 1. They find Ripburn on the backside. Still the shots come in. The rest of VISTA, they need to stay together. Imperium, they're beginning to be a bit split. It's SKYROCKETs. They've come down the middle. Easy comes out in front. Gets another elimination to the books. It's playing an absolute monstrous game. Insino will fall to SKYROCKET. Take the first game of the day.
In the words of Freddie Mercury, I want it all, I want it all, I want it all, I want it now. And that's exactly how SKYROCKETs played that late game. As soon as they got rid of Major Pride, they took down Triple, they helped to take down NIGMA Galaxy, and they took down VISTA. They dominated that late game, and they fully deserved that chicken dinner. Things are heating up though, because VISTA got themselves a 2nd place.
Look, I mean, Easy though was on an absolute tear. Imperium, 14 eliminations for SKYROCKETs, 29 points in total. VISTA, though, as you said, 20 points to their own 8 eliminations.
Like, Skyrockets coming into this game in 15th overall, picked themselves up 29 points. Vista Gaming coming into this game in 20th place, a mammoth task in front of them, get themselves 20 points. That already, by the way, already after only 6 games, puts them ahead of Cur 12, who had played 15 games. That puts them so much closer to 90th minute, who played an extra 15 games. I am on the Vista Gaming train. I am on this rocket-fueled ship they are sending right into the PMPL Arabia space.
Look, I mean, I'm almost in disbelief at the fact that it has only been 6 games. Where was this Vista Imperium for the rest of the tournament? They feel like a totally different team.
I'm trying not to think about that because I'm simply enjoying the performances they're giving us right now. I'm simply enjoying the entertainment, the action, and just the resilience they're putting up now. However, they need to continue to follow it up as we look at the second page of the standings from that first game.
Yeah, this is where we don't want those teams to be, and unfortunately the only one gets themselves 5 points. Starting to be a bit of a problem, more so though for 90th minute. For Falcons as well, who got 0 points in this game. So as these teams in the bottom play spectacularly Imperium, someone has to fill their place. And unfortunately it looks like it could be a few of these.
One thing to note, OOREDOO Thunders did pick themselves up 10 points, so they are kind of very important points in somewhat creating that cushion against the only one, against Falcons, against CONQUEROR. So it is something to kind of highlight. The SKYROCKETs, man, 29 points. Without kind of spoiling too much, I doubt we're going to be able to check out the overall stat for the second game, but that does put them on a total of 192 points, the same amount of points as OOREDOO Thunders, and only 1 point behind Rad.
Look, I mean, we're looking at the best Oppo moments right now as well, Imperium, and quite frankly, I have to be not only in awe at Vista, I still think SKYROCKET to dispatch of Major, to dispatch of Triple, to get rid of NIGMA, to also fight through Vista, have played also on an entirely new level, and I think that has been the case for these teams in on the bottom half. We worried that coming in, especially to the start of this Super Weekend Imperium, that the pressure would be a worry for these lower teams who haven't played well without the pressure as much. Now, how are they going to fare? But it seems that that pressure has turned into a blessing for these teams because they are, as we said, playing on an entirely new spectacle.
Well, pressure makes diamonds, pressure powers tires, pressure it comes into a lot of factors, and in PUBG Mobile, pressure creates moments that either go horribly wrong or exceedingly right. We are actually going to have a look at the overall standings off the back of this first game, Highland Wolf. And yeah, to be fair, okay, NIGMA Galaxy have gone back up in the third.
Yeah.
It's not really about the top 8 at this stage.
No, it certainly isn't. Is this top 8? We know where they are in the standings. We know how successful they've been. It's about the bottom half of the standings. That's where the juice will get squeezed.
And this is the 9th to 16th, and again, this is the race for survival. This is the kind of fight to stay or make it into the top 16. The only one did pick themselves up 5 points in that game, and that, within reason, does deserve a bit of credit because they got a very successful engagement on the Falcons, and it was only a little bit unfortunately against them, and I say a little bit unfortunately because it was the opportunistic third-party engagement by Triple Esport. However, one of the caveats to that is the only one were coming in late to the circle, so they didn't know what teams were around them, so there was always going to be that risk of a third party off the back of that engagement.
Yeah, and I think that's something that these teams need to keep in mind in terms of
Yeah.
being prepared for that zone. Now, we also have to acknowledge, right, that Vista did get a very central zone towards them. As
Yes.
amazing, though, as Vista did make it look, I still believe that these teams need to be proved, less so for Skyrocket coming in, but proved generally on the fact that if that zone does go away from them, how are they going to perform? And I think we saw it in certain matches, not a Miramar, which is coming up, by the way, but Sanhok, as we'll see later today, a team like GEEKAY I wanted to highlight, where that zone was very north, and they did change their drop top to the drop to the south, and they did struggle.
Let's have a look at the final page of the overall standings. You do make a bit of a point, and the circles in that first game really weren't that kind of aggressive, in my opinion. They were pretty fair. This Gaming, like I said, do move ahead of Current 12 in the standings on a total of 86 points. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. If at the moment Vista Gaming stay on this path, which at the moment is 14.6 points per game, it will put them on a total after 15 games of 214 points. That's a pretty solid cushion ahead of Rad, ahead of kind of at the moment Ardu Thunders and Skyrockets. With 9 games still to go, it is a wide open door, and the mountain still continues to be hard to climb. They're climbing it though. They're making those Everest steps up that massive mountain of the overall standings. Like they're only like 24 points behind 90th minute, who have 15 extra games.
Look, I've been myself personally to the foot of Everest Imperium. I know it's possible. I know that these teams can get the job done. But if you at home want your own rewards, what better way than the Grand Banquet, of course, live now in game, get ingredients to make more dishes. Let's share and spread our happiness. Imperium also, though, we've got to acknowledge that it comes at a discount too. Even group purchase, draw for a discount for free every single day and get those rewards at a better deal, of course. Imperium, I'm thinking now coming into Miramar, though, as we are warming up that second game, how are these teams going to keep consistent? Because it's a long road still away, as we can take a look at that map schedule and see still 4 more games for these teams to play to have that success on.
To be fair, they kind of need to go down the route, and it's going to change from team to team, but in a generic way, you strip away what's happened in the previous game, whether it's been a good result or a bad result. You kind of low-key need to strip away what's happened in the last 30 minutes, and you got to focus on what is the present and the future, which is this next game, which is going to be this map of Miramar, right? Because if you've had a good result, yeah, you want to kind of continue the momentum, and that does require remembering how well you did in the first game. But if you think about too much of what's happened in the previous 30 minutes, you're not focusing on what's in front of you. And again, if you've had a bad result, you just don't want to have that bad result in the front or back of your mind. So you just forget about it and focus on it. Someone literally just messaged me on Instagram, will Vista make it? I'm going out on a limb, because why the hell not? The way I look at it is that, like, I've got nothing to lose by saying Vista will make it.
Yeah, right. And that's the scary part about it, is I feel like I've watched so many times Imperium teams that we say they need a 10-point average to the second or third super weekend, they kind of fall down, and we kind of get disappointed as well by those teams by not having those fantastic storylines. Now it's a reality. I don't want to be disappointed even more so, because it's beginning to take shape, that fairy tale ending for Vista into the finals. As we check out, though, our Miramar match here, Imperium, our 7th game of the Super Weekend 3, and the train has to keep rolling for them.
Here's the thing, though. Even if they don't make it at this stage of the final Super Weekend,
put up a fight.
I'm not going to be disappointed, because you're right. They've put up that fight. They've given us so much to kind of hold on to, and they've kind of, within reason, I hope others agree, they've kind of captured the hearts of of the audience, and they've captured the hearts of this super weekend, and they've kind of put into the forefront that you just never give up, right? Just
Yes.
never give up. Keep on climbing, keep on trying. You fall down, you get back up. You fall down, you get back up. You fall down, you get back up. And by God, have Vista got up.
And it's not even biased. I mean, as a saying goes, Imperium, everybody loves an underdog, and these
Yeah.
teams at the bottom performing well, I think not only gives us hope that there's a competition for the bottom teams, but it's even more exciting from a point of view that every team is equal in itself, and every team has the potential to outdo the other. And that's the exciting part, as the tournament not only unveils here right now in Miramar, but an eye into the future of finals where every team we know can outdo each other makes those finals even more exciting.
Exactly, and we also can only ever, I suppose, play on what's in front of us or what's happened within reason more recently, and to give a bit of a caveat on why, at least me, I'm kind of on that Vista gaming hype train, because I mentioned at the moment they're on an average of over 14 points per game, and yes, it's only been 6 games, but on the opposite end, 90th minute, they played 21 games, and they're
Yes.
only on an average of 5.7, right?
And
That
that's the scary part.
and that's the scary part for 90th minute, but again, it says to me that 90th minute across more games that they've had to adapt, improve, adjust, and get up to the level required, they have failed to do that. And in a shorter period of time, Vista have. So I look at the two and I kind of go, well, Vista Gaming kind of deserve to have that opportunity more heavily. They kind of deserve and have proven themselves to be in that race for the top 16 more than 90th minute. So it's why they're on our tongues more heavily compared to the likes of 90th minute.
And it's crucial to mention actually the length of the tournament in this regard, because 90th minute at the beginning of that tournament did look on a whole much better than Vista, who struggled in that first week Imperium. And I think our perspective of the two teams would have actually been reversed, and we would have said, well, Vista don't look as great compared to 90th minute. But as that tournament evolves and teams begin to evolve themselves and adapt, that's where we've seen Vista be more flexible than 90th, because 90th coming off of that malfunctional second week and now into the third still feel like they haven't fixed their problems.
Either way, the Miramar game is continuing on. When we saw the playing path, there wasn't really too much to talk about because it was an absolutely wonderful playing path. And similarly with phase one, it's pretty dead center. So many areas of the map to lock down. You have the center part that RTG currently have split around the power grid, Picado Hill region. RA, they're currently in San Martin. GEEKAY on our screens right now, looting up Picado, so they have an easy path line. I would recommend for GEEKAY shift up a bit to the east earlier on. Send one player on that kind of East Picado Hill. You'll be able to slow down and get earlier information on the likes of NASR, the only one, OOREDOO Thunders coming in around that Lampadita Los Leones area. And as you get into phase number 2, it will give a bit of a cleaner rotational point if it, let's say, goes up north towards kind of the graveyard area.
I'm always intrigued by teams, of course, approaching around Picado. I feel like GEEKAY do play a slightly dangerous game, and as you say, bring that member towards the east would help them out overall.
Yeah.
I actually think that coming into the finals, squads like CONQUEROR, squads like RTG could maybe take advantage of that. However, I understand on the other half why they don't, because on the other hand, it could be quite an extended fight, being one far away on the hillside, still blocking the other from escaping, but no team really moving anywhere on the whole. So eventually they would run out of loot overall and be in a worse spot at the later point in the game. So I think in terms of the entire game, it is more sensible that teams don't really approach GEEKAY and still let them do their thing.
SKYROCKET's a A to-the-moon performance, you could say, in game one, picking up 29 points. They're currently looting up Valdemar. They have a solid entry point into the circle. They want to be cautious of 90th minute currently in Monte Nuevo, but again, they can kind of get a bit of a drop on 90th minute by taking that northern road line past La Drolera and even perch themselves on top of the hill overlooking Monte Nuevo to scout it out before they move forward. The one caveat, of course, that is an area I really wouldn't recommend teams going is that low ground in between Monte Nuevo and Picado, right? If teams go there, they're playing a much riskier game in the presumption that phase 2, phase 3 is going to continue down south.
And I think rotation is particularly something important in Miramar, and something that we talked about last game, sure, can come with their own issues, can also be punished. There's always a lot more Imperium in a map like Miramar, because naturally that terrain is more volatile, it is more high, or it is more low. And then also, on the other hand, there are more open spaces between compound to compound. Now, first phase, that doesn't really impact us as much, but it's a setup in these early points Imperium that are crucial into making those successful rotations later phase 3, phase 4.
Falcons. Yesterday's Miramar game was a massive dud for Falcons based off that. What I remember is a more easterly plane path. They tried to pick up vehicles earlier and kind of ran into the path line of R8. They lost a minimum of 2 players towards R8, and then they ended up going down very early. I think either VISTA or the only one, but either way, it was just like an extreme dud. Much better start to this Miramar game today as they dropped in Le Cabrera. Will have a clean path line into the circle from the northwest side.
And I'm glad they changed that, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because it's not the first time actually it's happened to Falcons inside of this competition. So I'm actually surprised that they did try the same thing, because in the previous encounter, they did lose a player. They almost lost a second to Vista. And to try that again, be punished, I think it's right, though, at least currently, because although it is more risky and although it's going to affect their standings now, it could be a lot worse in the finals. Trying that and learning from that mistake earlier before then allows you to adapt, as you say, and make those changes.
YALLA Esports currently rotating from this Impala area of the map. They're kind of northeastern side, a little bit free to go to if they are aware of it. Only POWR Esports tend to kind of drop around that El Azahar region. So I'm kind of surprised that they're going closer towards Los Leones than they are towards Graveyard, right?
Yes.
Because I think in around that junkyard, sorry, not Graveyard, apologies, junkyard, but in around that junkyard area, you're able to, if you get there early enough, scale around those meanest hillsides, and you're getting a lot cleaner information towards the center of the circle, and you're kind of away from the cluster teams that drop in between Los Leones and Puerto Prisa.
As well, phase 1 now turning into phase number 2 here is all of these teams, for the most part, are going to be mainly centralized in this next shift. It is, I'm curious, so going to shift potentially towards the center or away. A lot of these teams already very centralized here inside of this first phase, and going to remain centralized, crucially, in this second phase here is all about here Picado Hill, all about that peninsula as well, of course, on that Envision game for the likes of RTG, for the likes of RA, who now are going to face a lot of these squads coming from the outskirts, these final rotators in on towards that center point as well.
Yeah, teams are in the center, but you can still see there's this kind of like gap between Picado Hill and kind of Picado Hill to the north and Picado Hill to the east. And GEEKAY have done what I suggested, which is kind of rotate away from the Picado Hill to the east side. What I didn't fully expect is that they have a pretty heavy spread from around the northwest of Los Leones to the far west of La Benita, right? So it's a bit of a 1-1-1-1. I like it. There's a little bit of risk involved, but if they hold on to, if they're able to push teams back, it will prove to be very positive.
And I think it's very crucial to be able to push teams back from a center like this, where we've seen a phase 2 such as this before, and teams who did struggle to get naturally in towards those more enclosed points of the circle to avoid those big shifts away from them later in the game did actually work out a lot better in those further away. On the other hand, Imperium, those later rotating teams, did struggle a lot more in a previous encounter like this.
Teams on the West will want to be a little bit careful because up until that Picado Hill spot, you don't really get too much information on teams that are around that East Central area of the map. 90th minute, NIGMA Galaxy, even to an extent, R8 are a little bit isolated on their own, along with Falcons, RTG still on top of that Picado Hill for the time being. GEEKAY had a player knocked, has been able to revive, but maybe they recognize that the split they had earlier on is a little bit too risky, so they're in a more comfortable 2-2 split for the time being.
And I like that you mentioned that they've kept these 2-2 splits because they're still keeping the idea of that control and that space of control. And that's crucial in terms of, as we said, keeping those players back. I think also in terms of RTG, they've also begun to spread out across this mountainside, as you can see, doing something similar, where they've gone from that full squad into a 2 versus 2 split. So making that control and making that area of control for yourself, very, very crucial, as we say, in these kind of points going into the mid game.
Hey, interesting with YALLA. They're kind of committing to that more eastern, southeastern direct rotation as compared to a more variable, wider northeastern rotation. A bit of a replay, by the way, what happened to that GEEKAY player. At the moment, YALLA are to give them credit, even though I don't really love where they've gone pathwise, they're making it work and they still have a full squad up.
And YALLA are in a mix of a different few of these teams. And it's going to depend on where this third phase really occurs, whether it will help them or hinder an Imperium. A lot of it could change here.
A3 shifts up north, right on top of R8 and the Picado Hill area that RTG currently have a 3-on split in a round. VISTA Gaming also looking very healthy on that northeastern side. Again, they were holding on to, similar to GEEKAY, only further away from the center of the circle, a really confident kind of 4-person spread. It will allow them to play around this Hacienda area in the hillside, overwatching it quite comfortably as a full squad.
And POWR as well, of course, looking around this location. I think that for them rotating through land Bendita, making that wider rotation, going to be very optimistic for them in terms of getting a good position. Also, NASR, though, blocking them in around its graveyard point. So, however, on the other extent of that, I'm worried about NASR actually for these other teams because they're going to have a lot of control if they remain in this graveyard hill and try to offset these teams on their rotations.
Falcons do need to be careful. I don't like that they have Never Alone on that western edge of San Martin. I understand the premise of it, but they've already lost a player. Having a 2-1 split and taking that risk is to me not worth it. Where the two players are is very easy to get to that position of their teammate. If the next circle continues towards the city, to me, they don't need to have a player there.
However, they do anyways. Is here YALLA making that rotation, and as we said, the 4 Imperium NASR overlooking a lot of these teams rotating, but are still very distant from those teams on this graveyard hill. So YALLA making that big wide rotation early does buy them the space to get away. However, POWR, as well as you could argue here, Pride versus 90th, going to get caught, and as we said, that POWR player too, Kante, caught by the only one.
And in minute need to start to get dangerous. They need to start to take risks because slowly but surely their opportunities to make it into the top 16 will be running out. Not only do they have VISTA Gaming on the tear behind them, but they are falling further away from the likes of CONQUEROR, from the likes of Falcons, and of course the only one. So I worry and I very highly doubt that 90th minute will make it into the finals. But until the fat lady sings, the opportunity is still there.
I'll have to hope for them, Imperium. I still believe that anyone in anyone's game can get into the finals. Major are though a very tough opponent, and we've seen him be so strong this weekend. To be caught now so late on the rotation, it just looks a bit awkward in terms of 90th positions because they're so split, Imperium. And EMAD coming in this late, you really have to rely on him not coming down by Pride to open the door for 90th. And there it comes.
There you go. Yeah, Ninja does ninja his way into that knock, but you're right, that split from 90th minute isn't really the kind of split where they're ready for an engagement. They're ready to hold on to the edge of the circle, and they could lose a player as they have to Milky Way.
And I don't like that idea of positioning to hope that your opponents make a mistake. You have to put the onus on yourself to make those good rotations. And they see, as a result, Major still finding that punishment through. Nomivo also going to fall as Pride. I think also taking a bit too long in this fight generally, however, Imperium, and you can see them losing a few players because of this.
Yeah, they don't need to worry, though. They can afford to take these risks. They can afford to take these fights. So between the two teams, I'm not too worried about Major Pride. The next circle, by the way, did pop up, my friend, and it shifted down south. So it's really right on top of that Picado Hill.
You gotta feel bad for 90th because, as you said, the Major Pride, we don't care about their standings, right? We're only after that first place, so nothing really. I mean, yeah, sure, you talk about those PMGC points, but it's much more amusing in the moment to stop 90th on the edge.
Down goes OOREDOO Thunder. So although they got 10 points in the first game, going out early with only 2 points in the second game is not the way they want to go. 90th minute look to disengage. They lose a player once again to Major Pride, and it's fortunately a tale as old as time for 90th minute. They're too passive, they're too reactive, and they're not proactive enough.
However, 90th maybe just walking into another fire of NIGMA is unfortunately also SKYROCKET gonna bite the dust. Major aren't finished yet, though. They will mind the fact that 90th came in behind. They will get rid of him, but it's on the other edge here. Even more is the only one, and YALLA stuck in combat.
This is great for CONQUEROR, the only one, and more importantly, VISTA Gaming, the only one though are in their only fight as YALLA push on in. The crash is there, but YALLA under a lot of pressure. Sanji's gonna get knocked. Luckily, VISTA third party.
But quick knock by Life gets rid of one of VISTA in what could be a crucial time because they too need to find a position. Thankfully, not in the midst of those engagements. As down on the south though, that's where the eliminations remain as YALLA all fall away. Unfortunately, Life as well, losing their own life. YALLA will be eliminated. Now, NASR though, in between, as we said, this south part Imperium are playing like ninjas themselves in amongst them all.
Out of the 5 teams that we've lost so far, 4 of them are down in the bottom standings. Like I said, absolutely great for CONQUEROR and more importantly for VISTA Gaming. VISTA are on 3 eliminations so far. CONQUEROR, they're on 0. They're both in a pretty solid position here in this phase 4 circle.
And CONQUEROR have an excellent position, more so than VISTA here on this high ground. Also RTG, another big controlling game for them. Very much on whether this so will remain on Picado Hill, but if it does, I mean, RTG, we've seen them take over these types of games before. We've seen NIGMA have this same position and completely roll over a game.
I don't know if CONQUEROR are in a better position compared to VISTA. Technically, it looks like it. But I would argue that on a variably hard shift, that Picado Hills can be quite difficult to navigate around. VISTA have more... Okay. They generally had more rotational points, but as it shifts down south, yeah, it's the worst kind of shift VISTA could have asked for.
I mean, past tense is a crucial part to say about that now.
Bro.
Yeah, maybe like my meanness and then your Castle Curses Imperium is not great a combo for VISTA. It's now we feel that pressure. R8 are all over them. VISTA though on the front. Tropka needs to find the outplay of the century, but steps back down, not wanting to lose out completely in the position so far. But CONQUEROR also looking over. It is a complete disastrous spot.
I was so worried that Trafficker was going to make that solo push aggressively on his own, but I think those shots were simply to try and suppress the RA players, maybe get a little bit of information from that third-person perspective. They can't get the revive up, I believe, so it does confirm VISTA down to 3 players.
In VISTA, though, important, of course, Trofka not losing their life. As we said, Dino Sunrise still need to engage in a position where they can fight versus R8. Now, R8 still using those nades to keep them at bay. They're beginning to split out now for a bigger angle to try lure those nades elsewhere and allow maybe a flank to happen. But R8 are still in this control. The only problem is they also have to move into this zone because they too will fall under pressure later on, but they are very much enjoying R8 taking down these members of VISTA.
It was never going to be easy for VISTA Gaming right off the back of that circle shift. I think coherently they probably should have opted to disengage from that northeastern side rather than try and scale up the mountain on the northwest. There's nearly always going to be a team in front of them in that regard, whereas that southeast, even though it's more open, technically less teams were most likely going to be around them.
However, they still have at least one player alive. Dino is still there, and I'm hoping I haven't cast a custom and he'll fall in about the next 5 seconds in Imperium.
Yeah.
RTG, however, there it goes. I knew it. I knew it was going to happen. Unfortunately, Vista Gaming, it was a double caster curse. We went one each.
Still 4 points for Vista Gaming, so I'm going to argue not the worst result in the world. You're never going to have every game go your way between circle control and everything else, so it was within reason important that they picked up as many points as they could, and they kind of did. So 4 secured for Vista Gaming in this game too. Once again, still very positive for CONQUEROR. They're currently outside of the top 16 in the overall standings, so this Miramar game, the map that they are notoriously extremely strong on, needs to be a good one.
Needs to prove, I think, actually. The Conquerors still are really the kings of Miramar. It just feels like other teams have been surpassing them so far this tournament, but it's a nice one-for-one trade. At least Rio helps to find that security onto Batika. The second elimination so far as the guns are being warmed up, but NASR also stuck here on the problem of being outside another southern shift. It's the nade. Oh, that could have been even juicier.
Playing around this Picado Hill is so difficult. You're trenching dips. It's hard to see who's in front of you. You got to take risky jumps around. So it's not going to be easy for all of these teams up on the north.
NASR, though, I'm gonna lose a secondary player in this server, losing the players into the point that rotation, as you said, it has to be slow. You need his players to allow the opportunity of those different angles. No longer the case. Rio will look for a final nade, will fall short as Ali goes back, but gets caught out on the rotation and uses them, plays them like a fiddle.
Yeah, great teamwork by CONQUEROR, creating those small entry points that NASR probably should have punished them a bit more heavily for, but that's nothing against CONQUEROR and what they did up until that point. We are down to 6 teams, 18 players coming into Phase 7 shift.
Big point in the fact that a lot of these teams aren't inside the zone yet still, and R8, one of them, feeling the wrath of RTG, is already will lose a player. The blue zone, very much a threat coming in behind them at this point in the game. You can see how close it is. They had to abandon Cry, and now SK Ton and Prestige desperately searching for a side flank. Is CONQUEROR the same? GEEKAY in front, but at least the knocks are there. CONQUEROR making a big rush.
This is what CONQUEROR do so well inside Miramar. I don't know what it is about this map, but they seem to know every single dip, every single element of terrain inside this map so much more compared to Erangel and Sanhok.
That nade did go wide, but it doesn't matter because the shots still are on target. Rio finds the first of GEEKAY. There, the revives may have only been to their downfall once more. Rio searching for the second, but the nade's being cooked up by GEEKAY. They step back as CONQUEROR look for the revive themselves, but the blue zone, as we said, coming in behind, doesn't buy much time. Already engulfing them, but GEEKAY falling to the zone as well with the shots. It's CONQUEROR who utilize the third party of the blue, and now they have an entrance in.
Power are a little bit down towards the south of them. They have RTG up and towards the north, so CONQUEROR need to try and hug this cliffside as much as possible. RTG will have heard all of those shots, all of that utility to that east side of them. And now as the circle centers up, none of these remaining 3 teams are inside the circle.
In a top 3 position for CONQUEROR as well here in this game, Imperium. This is going to bring them also up into the standings. This is going to give them the game that they can write home about. Is RTG, though, still a dominant force, as they need now to rotate down out of the zone. But the high ground, arguably a lot trickier here, because POWR's position, they have the dips to hide in, but they can certainly see all of those members. However, losing that first player does force them back.
You're right to point out the risk around that RTG's high ground position. The thing is, they have the body, they have the numbers to create that push, to turn that suppression from the high ground above them. Full squad up against CONQUEROR's full squad, and POWR's potential, indeed, 2-man remaining team.
POWR getting themselves inside the building. It's all about POWR surviving, I believe, for them. They're going to hope they can get that second position, but RTG look very much on in their faces. Unfortunately, though, they lose one. It's that dip that we talked about. He uses it to their effect and now gets around the corner. Going to look up very aggressively. Will be punished for it. J9 finds the bullets.
Indeed, RTG need to start to make some noise. They need to start to put on the pressure. They know that there's a minimum of 2 other teams around them, so getting the knock into one does not give all the security in the world on the remaining team around them.
But CONQUEROR, keep in mind, 8 eliminations. If they can get this chicken dinner, this is going to be a fantastic game for CONQUEROR, as we say, to get up those standings. The elimination points crucially up there, along with the placements. Minimum 18 points so far, but they're searching for more. They will lose, though, a player on the rotation,
No, they
but
won't.
not to worry, because they can get them back up again, of course. As is so, coming now out with the right time, buys CONQUEROR the space, as they too went for the flush, but RTG are there to shut them down.
Really good timing by CONQUEROR on that push down the mountain, knowing that they have RTG to the north of them on the high ground. POWR creating that beautiful distraction to move on into the edge of the circle.
And CONQUEROR still here alive, still using that angle ramp. They're holding it as long as possible. They know that POWR are there. They know that there are shots elsewhere by RTG, and as a result, they don't play this too fast. It's about the patience, not getting too overly hyped. Is RTG, though, stepping themselves down one stepping stone at a time.
Thing is, CONQUEROR really have no true idea on the exact position of the RTG players. Similarly with RTG onto CONQUEROR, the thing is though, CONQUEROR have far less space to maneuver around and separate themselves away from RTG.
We talk about space, Imperium. Look at POWR from behind a tree. That's all they've got. And an unknown is looking under them with that smoke. It's going to dissipate, though, at some point. And POWR will not be immune to the pressure of RTG. But they, too, want to utilize here CONQUEROR, the 3rd team on this field, to help them delay the inevitable. CONQUEROR on the edge, though, in that blue zone. His phase 8. Imperium, you get caught by that. There is no saving you. Unfortunately, POWR now engulfed by the blue, engulfed by RTG's remaining shots. Desperate attempts will find Nabo, though. And as much as POWR will struggle here to the blue, they are going to keep themselves potentially alive here for the 2nd place. But RTG, they will fall 2 members, and the door is open wide. And CONQUEROR leap through the front entrance, but it's still another blockade of even more behind the door that they need to answer. All 3 members of RTG clumped together. In CONQUEROR, they had everything in their hands with the edge of this mountain to control it. The drop shot, a final attempt, but RTG, it's not enough. And CONQUEROR come out on top.
And that was such a good finish to the game, because CONQUEROR and RTG both knew that they couldn't push on each other until POWR Esports were dealt with, right? That's why so much pressure was being put in POWR Esports' direction. Now, I don't know how POWR Esports survived for as long as they did. By God, did they survive? And here's the thing, they put that nail into the coffin of RTG's endgame by getting that elusive knock, and as quickly as that came, a second knock came in the direction of an RTG player from CONQUEROR, so they knew CONQUEROR knew that they had a little bit more space to push on in to play that edge of the cliff side, and they got the final blow onto RTG. 26 very, very important points secured for CONQUEROR.
And that is crucial for Conqueror now to utilize those points to extend that further. I think it was very much, as you say, however, a perfect timed opportunity for POWR to get, as you say, that knock and Conqueror their own RTG. That was the time they also wanted to step down off of that mountain to actually pressure Conqueror. That time that POWR did get that knock against them, that POWR were going to fall to the blue. And I think it was that unexpectancy also with the fact that POWR had actually consumed one of those adrenaline shots. It did and keep them immune, should I say, to the blue zone for more time. And they didn't anticipate that amount of time. They thought the blue would take POWR out. Instead, that came to bite them back.
Falcons got themselves 6 points. It's okay. It kind of isn't enough, especially when you compare to not only what CONQUEROR did in their own right, but teams below them. As you look at page 2 of the standings, like VISTA still got themselves 4 points. Yeah, okay, they're much further behind. The only one got themselves 3 points, so kind of Falcons only got 3 more points. And again, SKYROCKET and OOREDOO got 2 points themselves. Falcon Esports, at the moment, they kind of need to do a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that this is okay for this to, I mean, sure, it's not a fantastic result that they're looking for. It's not going to be the case. But what is the case is, as you highlighted in the middle of that game, Imperium, there were a lot of teams that also need those points that fell before them. So Vista still picking up those 4 points, keeps them alongside those teams, and it still gives them a secondary shot to get back on top. However, you do have to note that a lot of those teams fell. They did miss a slight opportunity. However, they got more chances on the Erangel later, as we'll check out the best of moments and have a short break. Welcome back here. We're halfway through our second day almost at the PMPL Arabia Full Split Final Super Weekend, day number 2. Myself and Imperium taking the rest of today, but also down below you got to take your own Oppo Reno 7 is the upgrade performance and upgraded fun. Celebrate your winning spirit with the brand new Oppo Reno 7 Pro 5G, the designated smartphones for PUBG Mobile, Middle East and Africa Esports 2022, as well as get yourself a Monster Energy with Get Energized. Monster Energy, the official energy drinks partner, of course, of the tournament.
Just making note of the current overall standings and how the teams are looking. I don't know if we have time to show, but I do want to show you, or sorry, not show you, but highlight the fact that Falcons have kind of dropped down to 16th. Like I said, CONQUEROR moved up to 15th, so that little bit of a cushion is there. And only one have actually dropped down to 17th, so they have moved down below the top 16.
Yeah, and I think concerning for the only one, considering that throughout not only this weekend Imperium, but the whole of the tournament, they have been in that bottom spot, really 15, 16 position. They need to improve. They need to do better. And I think of that kind of just good enough perspective that they've had throughout the whole of this previous season.
Definitely. And for OOREDOO Thunders and SKYROCKETs, on a big positive note, they have now officially moved ahead of RAD in the overall standings, and also that puts them only roughly about 20 to 30 points behind 4K Esports, who again are also not playing in the Super Weekend. So I kind of want to low-key say OOREDOO Thunders and SKYROCKET Esports, they're safe in the finals. That's okay. They've done enough from performance and point scoring to lock their position in the finals.
It's a curious point, considering that actually Falcons started quite a bit ahead, considering of SKYROCKET's Super Weekend. So Falcons going to need to do a little bit more improving. I think they've got off to a kind of rough start here, I would argue, for the second day. Not being a great performance for them. The first game, they did struggle in that second game too. However, being back on Erangel, I certainly think that Erangel still is their strongest map overall. And we always have to note that Falcons can have these amazing games on Erangel when given the opportunity to do so.
And let's be fair, it could go horribly wrong for OOREDOO Thunders and SKYROCKETs because, for example, or at least one of them, because, for example, like the only one Esports who are down in 17th are only 30 points behind SKYROCKETs and OOREDOO Thunders. But the trend so far this Super Weekend, to compare the kind of three teams, in day one yesterday, the only one only scored 19 points, but SKYROCKETs picked up 59 points and OOREDOO Thunders picked up 41 points across those 5 games. So that's why I kind of say that OOREDOO Thunders and SKYROCKETs are safe, because they've been on the upward trends in the point scoring so far.
Yeah, but keep in mind, as you say, there's still 8 games to go, including this one, of course. And the zone is a slightly bit more mean than the previous ones we've seen, has gone away from that more westerly playing path, or a southeasterly zone, but it at least goes south, considering that that playing path did draw itself closer to the center point at the bottom of Erangel. So teams going to still be in charge. Now, RCG, I'm a bit worried, considering that they have sent one of their players down to the south side. Volt is a bit in no man's land right now. Going to have to take a vehicle, rotation at least, to elsewhere.
Yeah, it seems like he has actually picked up a boat and is going on that river point in between the mainland and the military island. That's kind of an interesting rotation. It can work out because it's so early in the game that all the teams are kind of more focused on,
oh, I love it.
Okay, Damar, nice dancing, that all the other teams are kind of focused on looting, and 2, nobody expects a player or a team to be rotating from, in that river point, so he should be okay.
Oh, Damar, too much dancing, perhaps. It's gonna fall down, and that is not the time to show off, because the only one are very much here to be able to capitalize on it, and as good as it looks, that is KARMA Imperium.
Yeah, usually it is. Of course, Luffy needs to be careful. Still, or somewhat need to be careful because there was a bit of risk, you know, getting out of the vehicle in the open. See NIGMA, Galaxy, and NASR engaging on each other outside of school apartments. Now, this is this is NASR's normal drop area. It's not NIGMA's. NIGMA normally kind of lock down Pachinki. I don't know what the idea is on them pushing NASR in this area.
I mean, I like the change though. It's action at the end of the day, Imperium, and to see at least NASR and NIGMA take it to each other. It's unorthodox, sure, but it's exciting, and both of them already losing players. NIGMA still though in control of the compound as the final members of NASR barely keep themselves at bay for NIGMA's hands as they'll keep Lord alive. But you can see the medkits, you can see the healing. Miracle not even there yet. That was a very scrappy fight.
So scrappy, notably because NASR probably wasn't like in any way expecting a team to engage them. So quite weird. Like we kind of pointed out, NIGMA don't have anything to lose in this Super Weekend, and it could be the kind of thing where they're pressing out of Pachinki in a more aggressive way to send a little bit of a message, and it's nice to see them move out of Pachinki somewhat earlier per se than what we've seen in previous Erangel games. It's just a bit weird, and we see the result of the karma moment for the Mars. He technically fell off the vehicle to go down moving, but still the elimination point was picked up by Luffy.
Look, I mean, Falcons, if they were like GEEKAY, I wouldn't be a bit concerned about it, but it is to be said that Falcons do still need those points, and to lose a player showing off a bit, that could come back to fight them at least in this game, Imperium, because they are down to 3 players.
So we can at least kind of start to get a bit more of an evaluation of where the teams are within the circle. SKYROCKETs are in Novo, Ardu Thunders are a military base. You have Falcons as a 3-person team up in Yaz 9, R8 Major Pride, and North South Georgia respectively.
VISTA as well, also going to lose a player on, I would actually argue, a very weird rotation by VISTA. I mean, obviously trying to check compounds.
No, it's not.
And, well, I would say
no, it's not.
For compounds.
I'm sorry. I'm going to horribly disagree with you there because
Tell me why.
VISTA Gaming normally drop in this split area. So off the back of a plane path that was quite heavily southwest, you would more likely expect this area of the coastline to be a little bit more free. RTG are in an off position. RTG normally don't go anywhere near here.
The only thing I would say, though, is that RTG do drop here when it is specific to the plane path. And I think that is something, if you look back to week 1, NIGMA also fell into the same trap where they lost an entire game of Erangel to RTG, actually, who played in this location. So that's why I say it was a slight bit of a mistake. However, I do understand in the sense that being surprised by that rotation, it can catch you off guard because it isn't something that RTG normally do, but it is something we have done in the past.
Yeah, what, 2 weeks ago?
Right, I mean, it's very rare,
come on, like,
we're like picking at straws.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely do understand more your premise or the idea, and it's rare that I kind of so hard disagree with my co-caster's point, of course, but that I kind of was like, okay, I need to vehemently defend VISTA Gaming per se, because if you look at NASR, even though it's a little bit of a different situation, kind of they suffer the similar fate because a team that don't normally go to where they are, kind of caught them off guard, and that was the case VISTA Gaming this time around, and hopefully VISTA Gaming will have learned. They are still in a bit of a 2-1 split. Vault is close by to Trofka and Evo Station.
Yeah, I mean, at least they didn't make the same mistake that NIGMA, right, made to RTG that one game, and they did all lose their players, so VISTA very much can recover from this. And also RTG, very separated in terms of their 1-3 split, which in turn is great for the information. Vault now needs to be careful, however, as they will rightfully get knocked. F Station returns back 1.
Yeah, very, very good from Evo Station and Troska respectfully as well. They got some initial shots repositioned and then Evo Station returned fire from a more open terrain. So we most likely will see a bit of a clean 3v3 engagement. RTG will just take that loss and walk away with it. One thing we need to consider with this phase one is that it encapsulates a good chunk of that military island area. So if a phase two shifts down south, we could easily see a trend towards that military island terrain. So this kind of engagement between RTG and VISTA is quite important for both teams because they're more likely going to have teams swarming around them if the phase two does go down south. And indeed it does.
I like it very much, Imperium. A South Island finish is my favorite. And Monica, oh, Monica would be so jealous, Imperium.
Where are you now, Monica? You're just gonna have to watch like all the other peons. Obviously, I joke. I hope everybody can enjoy a potential military island finish in this second game. I like this from 90th minute. It's a very quick, easy way to transfer down to the military island area. The one risk, obviously, is that not only are you swimming across, but when you do get onto that beach side, you have no vehicles, and if teams kind of get there before you, you are a bit of a sitting duck. I still appreciate that 90th minute have done it relatively as early as possible.
Yeah, I think very early indeed it will be the name of the game because these other teams trying to face their fight throughout these bridges will now have to contest both power on the western side. But also SKYROCKET did dispatch of a beginnings of a fight of Triple who tried to cross that bridge, lost one player, so will have to take a slower approach. But slower is not something that these teams on the northern side have, as CONQUEROR already there versus Major.
It's just a little bit too easy for teams to catch out others from those bridge side rotations. One, like phase two, although it did shift heavily down south and it is predominantly in the military island area, there's still no guarantee that's gonna finish in the island. Indeed. So you don't really have to. You don't have to make the hard risky commitment across either of the bridge. If you're going to kind of commit to military island on this phase two, go for a botation or kind of do what 90th minute did and go for that direct coastline push onto the northern beach side.
Look, I mean, I've seen that happen before, Imperium. I believe it was very recently, too, where I looked at a very southern team. It went back north, and every single team had no position on that northern side. And it was a disastrous attempt of flailing and fighting for those rotations once more. Major, however, is very much adamant, as you said, on keeping the edge of zone, still having those options available to them.
RTG being caught off guard by Triple Esports as they leave it far too late to try and in any way make it to that northern tip beach line of the island, right? You know, they did the exact opposite of what 90th minute did. There's no way that RTG should have been caught off guard like this. And if it's not going to be Triple Esports to punish them, it's going to be OOREDOO Thunders.
I mean, OOREDOO Thunder's taking a look on the high ground of that coastal line as well. I like that also even SKYROCKET have begun to send Triple R on top of that mountainside, by the way. A small note on that eastern side. Mega information given over from that location, and they don't need to keep all four players on the front. So I very like the proactivity coming from SKYROCKET here.
Dead right about that one. All right, playing through the Milta area on a northeastern position. I like it because as much as, yeah, okay, kind of if they stick to Milta City, it's a bit of a risk, but they're able to at least get a bit of information. And this, my friend, is why I said teams didn't need to commit to a military island position in the way that kind of Major Pride did per se, because there are no guarantee. We see phase 3 shifting up north. I feel bad for 90th minute in a massive way. They're now going to be somewhat locked in the military island. They're going to have to thread very carefully if they're going to make it across into the mainland.
Yeah, especially considering they lost that coastal line point they reached first, so they gave up a lot, do not have anything to show for it, except maybe this engagement versus Power, but it's a very scrappy one, and it looks with the smokes coming down, it could be a very long fight indeed, and rightly so. 90th, I think, making the right decision, going for that escape, will maybe try go for that rotation if they can get away with it.
I feel bad because I literally said to Monica in the group chat, Military Island finish Monica in all caps, and it's not going to be the case. We still have that little sliver of an area on that north inside the circle, but unlikely it's back down. Yeah, it would. Jeez, if it did, my God, that would not be. Yeah, that would be not a nice game to witness per se. Trofka, by the way, is the final player from VISTA in this game 3. So unfortunately, VISTA, their game not going according to plan.
Look, I mean, CONQUEROR have such a position for whichever way this zone now shifts. They've got their coastal line for themselves, whereas also you look towards that more beachfront. The other teams who have that advantage, very much triple in charge of OOREDOO coming in through that coastal line and coming in to the beach.
Okay, 90th minute. Are you engaging or are you disengaging? This is just a continued trend from 90th minute where it looks like they're going to take the fight, but then they move away. And again, it's just reactive play rather than proactive. They do send 2 players into the water, but now they're kind of locked in. You can see Alhaji as the heads pop. It's 3 clean shots onto the members of 90th minute as the phase 3 blue zone is starting to close in. Like, POWR Esports are in a much better position now than they were a couple of minutes ago, and that probably shouldn't have been the case.
CONQUEROR a little too much forward facing there as Major Pride catch one off guard, and that's the engagement that really needs to be started by Major to get a position over here. At least one will draw over the second to that location as Major Pride going for a very aggressive position on the side, but now need to work out the rest of the direction.
Nice play by Major Pride coming in from the back line. You're dead right about CONQUEROR. They didn't watch their backs as heavily as they should have. I guess sticking to the coastline position and forcing to look in that direction of the military island. But again, you got to know that teams are going to be swarming in from the northern side. Plus, Major Pride were in their area around that western bridge. The previous circle, you think they're not going to head in a similar direction? Come on, CONQUEROR. You're better than that, guys.
And unfortunately, that mistake is going to cost them. The zone goes away from that location as well and puts them down to a solo. Major Pride very much going to find that player when they come up for air, but only one cannot come up for any air right now as is YALLA. YALLA all over them, slapping them down and putting them in their place in the ground. Oh, the save!
Another nade goes in the direction of YALLA, and that's safe finish off, just Bumper left alive.
But Boompa has to step outside. The Molly barely didn't catch him. But Boompa's going to go down to R8. It's the third party that saves the only one. But R8 are still here looking.
Oh, Luffy's down. It's N7R that's left alive. And it seems like the day is numbered for the only one. They can't seem to catch a break. They give them a little bit of a defense. In game 1, they got a nice engagement onto the Falcons. They end up going down instantly straight away to Triple Esports. This game, they take out YALLA, they defend their compound. All right, third party. Feels bad, man.
Do you know what else feels bad? Is that when you wrote in the chat, you speak of all this chat writing, Imperium, and you don't even know what the shorthand of Instagram means. I mean, ISTG.
It's not. ISTG stands for I swear to God.
Is it? I call it Instagram.
Sorry. Who's the boomer now, Mr. Highland Wolf?
I'm just too zoomer. Look, I was too ahead of the times for social media.
Would you like some epic with that fail?
Oh, dude, I could take that epic. I mean, the only one I would like an epic return.
You'd probably like a second serving of it as well.
Oh, dude, give it to me. Slap it on my face, like massage it on me. I want to feel it.
Anyway, Vista Gaming go down. We are 12 teams left alive. The final player, the only one still trying to hold on. And as R8 pushed in, they kind of go a little bit solo. N7R on a sliver of health gets one, but he instantly goes down.
Oh, and R8 find the final player of the only one. Major Pride as well, going to potentially catch up a solo player of GEEKAY. I mean, guys, it looks pretty, it looks nice, but it's the only shed that they've got, and there is no one coming in.
Man, Who knew Monica was the zoomer out of all three of us? Plot twist, my friend. Plot twist is GEEKAY looking to create a plot twist of their own. Coming in a little bit later across these circles, they benefited from what has been very ping-pong shifts across the 4 parts of this game so far. They're in an absolutely wonderful spot ahead of Major Pride.
Zone. Depending on where it goes now, I mean, a lot of open space. I'm very curious if it will remain in that compound down towards that farm location. Goes elsewhere, Imperium. I think it's going to be more harder for these teams to try to assault these more flat land or ocean locations.
CONQUEROR down to a solo. Riva can do nothing. POWR Esports waiting in the water. This is so difficult. And where will this next circle go? I'm hoping it centers up. It does shift down to southwest across the Finn area.
Down in towards those farm locations. At least gonna keep them alive for the meantime. Is Major Pride going to also take up a location close to home? But it's all about triple now. They've got a compound, Imperium. They've got to defend it. It's unfortunately triple. Also down to 2 players, so we've got to mention as Major stepping up. Will this wipe out Guy? That'll do the job for them. Nomi looking over the top, sends down the nade forwards to Tan. Ragnar will miss out for now. Only gonna tickle the players of GEEKAY as Major keeping themselves in the game for now on the edge, but SKYROCKET going very much deep on into the zone, is into that compound. Triple, yeah, visitors, and there's 4 angry members of SKYROCKET.
Whoo! SKYROCKET rocketing in the light.
Oh, please don't sing again for me.
Nowhere,
Do
man.
not do that again,
just came out of
Imperium.
nowhere.
Never again. Please. My ears.
See, I don't know why, but I put it into the Transformers theme tune, you know?
Even worse. Don't explain it.
So, SKYROCKET, rockets in the skies.
I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding from every direction, just as bad as GEEKAY right now. Down to 2 players, Imperium. Major, they're even worse. Down to a solo, Yen in the deep.
It's just a shame that GEEKAY, their position that they held onto was so good that when that circle shifted up, it just gave them nothing to go towards. And in that coastline position, they're down to trouble as RA push in and they take out NIGMA.
And RA keep now their own position inside the shack, but they've got a long way to keep on going here. Still, it depends on where this zone shifts, and everyone you can see Imperium very hesitant to make those moves forwards in case of another hard shift.
SMH SKYROCKET. Can you take down the final player of RTD? Triple Esport are still in the compound with them, coexisting as 2 remaining players. One against the other. OOREDOO Thunders have the tip of the shark fin down at the southern edge of the circle, and they could get a great result from it.
GEEKAY somehow still alive in this game. I thought they would be a lot worse for wear, considering Guy was absolutely removed. Major Pride also had a position over them, but to defend against Major in such a dire position here, and also now even a position where they can push back from, but RA, they have turned their attention into what seems like GEEKAY's spot 2, and the zone centralizing around this compound, as well as R8 make the move.
Falcons still in this game, but they have lost 1 player in the form of Never Alone. He's knocked down, but most likely will get revived up. SKYROCKETs continue to have the compound control, but they need to move a little bit more to the west. I know they want to watch their backs, but as a full squad, they need to try and scout those buildings, lock them down, make sure they're cleared, and then they will have a much cleaner position in the game to get a chicken dinner.
Very close to death right now. GEEKAY dodging out the explosions, both of them extremely low. Triple also continuing to defend. By the way, the compound, SKYROCKET still haven't decided to go for the push. Will, I believe, hold on as long as possible to keep themselves in a good position, judging by the fact that, yes, 21 players still are alive here in Imperium, and there's still 10 teams. Placement points aren't even a matter of fact right now. The next team to go down still only earns 1.
There's a small little bit of low ground on that beach side that OOREDOO Thunders are doing a great job of holding on to, but Pride go down, a little bit of kamikaze play as GEEKAY are going to follow suit. We are whittled down to just 8 teams now.
And SKYROCKET's overlooking absolutely every one of those players on that more westerly side. Falcons too, you said they were alive. It's very much a last-ditch attempt for themselves as R8. They found him in the shed, but they're defending at least for the meantime. Prestige, SK-Ton, they're making a slow approach to this. And this is buying more time, but Powerful caught by the nade on the outside. That might be the end of it all. As Yusuf inside, Prestige goes in. Wrong way to look, Prestige. Yusuf can't find a triple. Double is not enough, but SK-Ton keeps himself alive.
Good attempt from Falcons, nothing more they could do, but great push, great aggression from R8. They've deserved every single engagement they've won because of how cohesive, how aggressive they've been in every part of this game so far. Coming up from the north side of George Pool, they played a wonderful game as we are down to 6 teams.
R8, I believe, locked in their location now. They can't cross the road, but inside the zone for the meantime. OOREDOO chasing that blue zone, though, however, as it's bound to Masama will at least take his ears with their life, but as SKYROCKET, they've got their number, and Asama will fall next.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time, unfortunately, for OOREDOO Thunders. That low ground dip was giving them something, and they've kept Hassan alive. But he's still in the water. You can see all the flat terrain right in front of them. Where will the next circle go? It does shift up north, centered on top of all teams. Sorry, not on top of all teams, but away from all of the remaining 5 teams.
And that's about the worst, I think, shift it really could have happened for the collective of these final players alive. Is R8, yes, have the better position. Now it's up to them to defend. You can see already they blow up the car, they blow out the wheels for no undershots to occur, and R8 setting up for the defense.
Oh, this is a replay of what happened with Major Pride. He actually blew up the vehicle himself to take himself out, and that's just an unfortunate case as SKYROCKET will move out of the compound onto the eastern edge of the circle. That's a risky play. Nice one for Easy to get in onto the wall side of that water tower.
Hassan, if they find Easy, this could be definitely a great position for OOREDOO to at least keep him in this game. They haven't even realized that Hassan is here. There is a disaster in wait for SKYROCKET here in Salam, and the front line going down. As R8 are winning the initial frontline engagement. This could go horribly wrong for SKYROCKET as another one goes in, almost takes down POWR.
And the fact that they didn't scout those buildings and make sure they had them clear could also go against SKYROCKET because Triple Esports is still alive.
Triple indeed, as you said, still here in the top 5, have very much been patient here to keep themselves inside of these final 5 teams. However, SKYROCKET do pull off the revive. They get themselves all back up and healthy. So the wave of all of that initial bombardment by R8 does go wide. But San is there. But there, SKYROCKET's find a punish, but the damage is already done. Easy also lost their life as well as POWR. Again on the front, and now back down to 2 again.
I know Easy wasn't in the circle, but he was still going to be able to do
crucial position
against the likes of Triple Esports. And as you can see, Ali makes it over to the crate and is going to confirm that elimination onto Easy.
Triple still inside now the top 4, but look at R8's eliminations. They're gonna bring it into double digits. 10 now for them. They're hunting for their own chicken of the day as Triple down to 1 player, pushing Ali, burning to the side on a molly. They get the revive surely off. Yes, sure, but when that smoke dissipates, they are sitting ducks. But SK-Ton caught out in the front. Maybe a bit over aggressive as SKYROCKET will punish.
He had to take a bit of risk, and I certainly appreciate from SK-Ton as a solo still leaves R8 down to 2 players. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to deal with SKYROCKET in the way they would have wanted.
SKYROCKET are an absolute menace as again Triple R is back up, the rest of them to play. They're also Triple finding the extra shot onto R8. Look at SKYROCKET who can maybe steal away this game as R8 will even fall down in 3rd. Triple now up to 2nd as it's all down to them versus the trio of the SKYROCKET crew. But they are searching and they have the zone, they have everything. It's Triple, all they've got is a loot box.
2v3, Triple Esports gonna look to make SKYROCKET's pay. The circle is in between both teams. Salam is inside it, but he's out in the open.
Molly, just to create space, slow down the assault of Triple. A slow assault, of course, at that as all of them go down in prone. Still even SKYROCKET, Rip holding the backpack here, isn't even afraid, and will just take them both out just like that. 1-2 and a victory for SKYROCKET as they claim the $1,000.
Second game today out of the 3 we've seen, so that's 2 on the day and $2,000 indeed in their back pockets. SKYROCKET's on the tear. It might not have been the cleanest of chicken dinners because I think they could have done better to have cleared out Triple from those buildings before they moved away from them. But when it was all said and done, a little bit of luck to take down. All right, they end up clearing out the last player of OOREDOO Thunders, and then they finished off, of course, Triple Esports to get that win.
Yeah, I mean, Triple was certainly a thorn in the side for many of those teams coming into the final point, but SKYROCKET very much was so much more annoying to R8. They couldn't finish them off. They stayed alive. Even OOREDOO couldn't deal the damage for SKYROCKETs to fall. And they take those $1,000 for sure, but R8 is still coming up in second. It is more, of course, so down towards OOREDOO getting those extra elimination points, getting to that fourth position, or fifth, should I say, position that matters because they were the ones that needed those points too.
OOREDOO Thunders were on 194 points with the side of SKYROCKET. Both teams getting double digits will put them not only closer to 4K, who were ahead of them, not playing the Super Weekend, but potentially ahead. And that's why I said those two teams, they're all good for the finals.
Yeah, and that secures with that game, I think, their finals position in Imperium, which was why it was so important for both of them, is we check out though that second page, and CONQUEROR, just a big mistake versus Major, puts them very early out of the game with only 4 points, as well as the only one there. Also, squads who opted for that more south side. Also struggling is a lot of those teams, Imperium, I spy, still down on that leaderboard, needing to get another redemption shot.
Falcon got 7 points, but let's be fair, Falcon's the only one,
right?
And CONQUEROR, they're all stuttering through these games, right? None of them have really taken the bull by the horns and are defining their end result, and that really worries me coming into tomorrow's 5 games. I want to see more from them. Yes, I've highlighted that the only one to give them a little bit of a pass. They've had some unfortunate plays where they've been third partied at the wrong time, but again, that shouldn't be an excuse for what has been maybe later rotations than they could have been, and with CONQUEROR and Falcons, like I said, stuttering through these games.
Yeah, and they need, as you said, to make their own destiny because they've only got now more 7 games to go, Imperium. And the worst of the day is still yet to come. Sanhok is now next, and that has proved a mighty opponent for all of them.
Indeed, and just hoping that they could pick up the pace and create a bigger challenge for the likes of SKYROCKET and OOREDOO Thunders.
Look, we're going to take it to a break here as well, Imperium. But our best oppo moments of that last match, and we'll see you on the other side for Sanhok, of course. Welcome back. It's Sanhok time on our second day of the third Super Weekend here at the PMPL Arabia. Myself and Imperium taking you through the day, and of course taking you down below to the Oppo with upgrade performance and upgraded fun. Celebrate your winning spirit with the brand new Oppo Reno 7 Pro 5G, the designated smartphone for PUBG Mobile Middle East and Africa Esports 2022. Also, in game, keep in mind there are your own rewards to get in place. Imperium Grand Banquet is live and get ingredients to make more dishes. Let's share and spread our happiness, as well as an even discounted opportunity for you with the group purchase. Draw for a discount for free every day, of course, throughout until now to the 13th of July.
You know what? I want to see the overall standings. I need to see the overall standings. With 2 more games to go today, teams are running out of time. Now, the top 8, to be fair, not really massively important to continually state. Yes, they're all in their own fight to maybe grab a chicken dinner, to maybe grab some extra money to play for those potential PMGC points. But as far as the finals, all those 8 teams, they're good in the hood.
Yeah, it's down below that counts, and Falcons in that 16th position, 178 points. Imperium, I felt like 180 mark was where we were saying could be qualification space. I'm actually concerned that Rad might not make it through, because 193 looks a bit dicey even at that point.
I'm thinking, I'm thinking they're going to be okay. You know why? Because of how much Team Falcons and the only one are kind of spluttering across. Fair. At the moment, the only one who are in 17th are roughly 26 points behind Rad. With 7 games to go, that's roughly about 3 points per game. The only one haven't exactly hit much higher average across that, so I still worry for the only one, but I also worry for Rad.
I think I actually do worry for Rad quite a bit, because the only one to keep in mind, when it counted in their last game of the first Super Weekend, they hit a mega 30-point match, and quite frankly, all of those teams below Rad, those 3, they only need about 1 good game, Imperium, about 25-30 points to get there. The zone and everything aligns right for them as we jump here into Sanhok. That could be that opportunity if it sends Rad below.
And kind of unfortunately, with Vista Gaming getting 2 bad results in a row, that does mean that what was technically a non-moving target of Rad makes it a little bit more of a moving target in the form of the only run esports. Like I said, out of the 2 teams leading up to this point, Vista Gaming have a much stronger average per game. They've hit much higher results than the only one. But with the gap they had coming into this Super Weekend, they need to hit the same every single game. They need to hit such high averages.
And I think for Vista, they really needed to be consistent through this final Super Weekend, and now missing out on 4 games with a poor result. Sure, they got 4 points in 1, but that is not good enough, Imperium, when you miss out on 2 other Super Weekends in. It feels like for Vista, they just simply have left it too late to be able to show up in such a level. And now every single game from here needs to be spectacular if they want to get to that high point. It looks so unattainable now.
Once again, we see GEEKAY not dropping in boot camp. They have gone for that kind of ruined split with Ragnar, actually more towards that trifecta area, which I am a big fan of. 90th minute, get a bit of a solo drop onto Kante of POWR Esports around that northern side. As far as I know, this is an adjusted drop spot for 90th minute, because in yesterday's Sanhok game, they dropped in hard team with OOREDOO Thunders, and maybe POWR could have technically predicted that, but I understand why they wouldn't have, and they lose a player.
Yeah, I mean, also 90th minute, I think it's smart by them to avoid their local spot when they are needing points, because I'm aware that teams could also try to contest them, to send them out of the standings. So 90th getting an extra access point on an elimination, also avoiding a potential fight versus OOREDOO, keeps them in a much better form in this early game.
So Falcons have spluttered through these games so far in the Super Weekend, taking technically unnecessary fights with Falcons in around Kampong isn't helping that. Yeah, okay, they've gotten an initial elimination and a second knock into Major Pride. A lot of risks still with that fight, with that engagement, and again, unnecessary in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that it's really risky, personally, to be able to take those type of fights. I mean, 16 positions, sure, they are going to, as you can see, to get one. I mean, almost they could have got two down to Frozen. Powerful. As we jump back, though, through to the rest of that replay, we'll take out the rest of Frozen. So they get that elimination point. I think that for now, Falcons need to be able to collapse onto one of these players. They need to really show that they can focus on the targets, because these fights have happened a lot of times before Imperium, and it's been that indecisiveness that has cost Falcons in the past.
Well, in yesterday's Sanhok game, they were much more concise with the engagement onto Major Pride, and they were much more aggressive. So I think they've improved on that. And in this game, in this situation, they've actually pushed their remaining players in Major Pride out of the compound completely further down the southeastern coastline of the Sanhok map. So in my opinion, job done for Falcon Esports while still remaining as a full squad.
Yeah, I mean, sucks for Major, right? You lose a player before you've even landed in the game, but you land late, you lose. Keep in mind also this first phase Imperium has also gone fairly north, actually, to the west side. So a lot of the zone still, in terms of the blue, is out of play. So it does restrict a few of these teams. However, I'm more interested in the fact that the choice is there, right? Between this northwestern side where we are now with 90th, or it could still be on the mainland.
I really like this with 90th minute. They've been very quick on their movements into this early game. Of course, recognizing with that massively northern phase one that you've mentioned, but moving to as a full squad to get an elimination onto one of the power grid players, moving across the bridge then onto this very important compound on the eastern coastline of that northwest island, where YALLA, as much as I say fair play to them in terms of moving across in boot camp, it was always going to be more important for them to kind of move a little bit quicker as a full squad together.
Yeah, 90th, finding finally that nade across. A very conservative approach when it comes to engaging onto YALLA. Not so conservative towards the utility, however, they did use a lot, but I like that careful approach by 90th. They understand Imperium, that if they start to lose members outside to the rest of YALLA coming up now into the engagement, that could cost them. And Yazan, even with that far flank, it seems that they want to take a much slower approach overall.
And YALLA need to be careful, right? Because they are at risk of not only potentially getting third party by GEEKAY further down south, but if a team coming in late, I know right now we know that there's no team coming in from the eastern side of the mainland, but they don't know. And they got to recognize that that threat is there. Are they locked in this position? Technically, could they maybe swim back across onto the coastline of the mainland? Possibly. But to me, they need to do everything that they can to find the opening and push out the 90th minute as quickly as possible. Oh my god, Ida! Coming up with R8 and the only one gets swarmed. Knocked down to smithereens, incredibly aggressive engagement. I don't know who started it, who initiated it, but it's the only one to be the losers of it, and R8 come out on top, and RTG could be looking to get involved on a bit of a third party. You can see the remaining players of POWR Esports on that black hole towards the northern side of the mainland, looking for a little bit of third party onto R8.
A big split though by a lot of these teams, Imperium and POWR. They are on more of that northern side to the bridge crossing. However, it's all on these teams defending that bridge. You can see that R8 very much in control there. RTG, a little bit more of a subtle approach, hiding for now under the bridge, but still effective nonetheless. Rest of POWR, still on the northern end. RTG making that crossing. It's a slow crossing, as we said, throughout the bridge, as you can see. More careful crossing, of course, is R8. Still continuing the slow engagement. Cover Imperium.
Phase on Blue Zone is, of course, starting to move in, and in the 7.5 minute mark, we've had a little bit of flurry of action, already losing a squad in the form of the only one. A number of teams down to 3 or less players, and there's still a few teams in the blue. Pride, Falcon, followed by NASR, as well as Triple Esports. NIGMA Galaxy as well, still inside the blue. You can see on the right-hand side of your screen, the teams that are highlighted and around the purple are in the blue zone of this circle.
I think still a very tricky blue zone, of course, in terms of where it's going to go. Keep in mind, Imperium, just like that last game, it could still shift away from that Northwest Island. And this time around, a lot of teams are committed to that Northwestern Island as well. So very, very dangerous in terms of those potential hard shifts.
I've been tracking the movements of SKYROCKETs kind of slowly throughout the circle, and I gotta say, they've been very quick to lock onto that mountain on the north western island, and they have a really great split with a recognition that they kind of need to watch their backs on that western side a little bit more heavily compared to the eastern side, and that south edge where 2 players of SKYROCKETs have is also a contentious area that teams could push onto. So really, really great awareness of where across that mountain range they need to lock down from the other teams.
It's going to be another tricky zone, though, Imperium, because it hasn't answered that question. It's only restricted that question more so because it removes all of those southern bridges from the second phase. However, now only with 1 bridge crossing and then the river itself, teams going to have to make those decisions. I mean, for the likes of VISTA and likes of NIGMA down below, they're much more likely to focus on this northwestern zone. Is up here already. YALLA are still fighting versus 90th.
Fair play to YALLA. I kind of said that they needed to make this push and commit to the fight against 90th minute. They've generally done that, but they've lost now another 2. Just 1 player left alive. Chodo able to kind of somewhat save the day and will get the revive onto his teammate Ninja. Lath is the last player alive for YALLA Esports.
And it's just slow but excellent defensive play by 90th to keep actually YALLA at bay, to draw them in. And YALLA, I think, feeling a bit more desperate with that second phase going the way it did to make that push onto 90th, but they didn't commit as that full team. I think because they lost that player early, they didn't have the manpower or the firepower to contest that full team in 90th.
This is genuinely 90th minute's best game in the PMPL so far. Because not only did they do a great job of sending EMAD to the kind of coastline on the east of the island, but keeping 1 player a little bit further up north on a higher ground position in the compound above covers EMAD and covers the rest of the team from YALLA pushing forward. So credit to them. They deserve every elimination so far.
A few later big rotations happening on the map, so Triple making that rotation over towards Hatin by the most part, or even further, could go to that kind of northern coastal line, but is very much on the edge of that northeastern point. Is POWR still, though, in this awkward spot, Imperium, where they are crossing between that 2 bridges. However, it may come back to help them or hurt them, depending on where this zone goes. Now, if it does shift back towards these teams in the mainland, excellent work. They can start picking up a lot of eliminations. The other hand, though, is that they could fall under the trap of being unable to cross with all those other players there.
This is a little bit of a similar phase 2 circle compared to what we saw in yesterday's Sanhok game. It is more obviously split between the 2 islands compared to yesterday's game, so hopefully it will allow a bit more time for teams to adjust and prepare compared to yesterday's game. GEEKAY are opting to go for a northwestern rotation in the north side of Hatin, but OOREDOO Thunder are there, so they might be able to get the pick, and you can see Triple Esports, they're being locked down by CONQUEROR.
Okay, I see Triple. I do also see Falcons over to Lakawi. Is Yawaz is going to lose 1, but also Major Pride. They're all the way down in docks still. Imperium. Can you believe that at this point in the game with a northern shift? I mean, Major Pride, it just seems like they fell by the sleep a little bit.
Why are Triple Esports going so close to the edge of the mainland this early into the phase 2 blue zone? Like, if you're gonna go for a botation, not only was that botation,
right?
No, not that. If you're gonna go for a botation, not only is it risky to go for it in phase 2, but wait until phase 3 pops up. Stick so as far close to that northern edge of the circle, as far away from the mainland as possible. Wait for the phase 3 to pop up. Most likely it's going to shift down south, and it means that the likes of CONQUEROR are not going to be looking in your direction. A massive mistake by Triple Esports.
And I just feel like Triple, because that zone was so north still in phase 2, as you said, they had the opportunity to go so wide, and they paid a price for that in absolute dire point of all of them falling down. Now, yes, sure, they got one, but look at Push's location. CONQUEROR, they are easily going to finish that last player off, as the rest of them they all fall. And CONQUEROR, a great spot for them is they take that kind of northern point that gives them not only the access to being away from that chaos inside now the center of zone as we split even harder between the two sides, Imperium, but they can still cross and make that cross into Hearting if need be.
It's going to be easier said than done. You make a valiant point. The thing is that there's two teams in that team, right? You got GEEKAY on the very northern tip, on that beachside buildings, and then you have Ardou Thunders in a 4-man spread. I would prefer to see Ardou Thunders have a cleaner kind of 3-1 split. I don't think they need to be as far as away from each other, because if a team does decide to crash in, it initially doesn't look like they're as prepared for a defense. However, so far, so good.
Oh, NASR, he was checking Imperium, but life still wasn't spotted. NASR, they bite them later. They're still focused here on VISTA on the other side.
And that's what I always worried about YALLA Esports, right? When they were in that position on that northwestern island in phase 1, that there were going to be teams coming in from that eastern side and going to be able to kind of stab them in the back. Luckily for that last player, he's able to swim across and hang on to the cliffside, but I would argue that's a matter of time before the likes of VISTA or 90th minute catch him off guard. 90th minute, by the way, still in this game is a full squad, so looking pretty positive in this 4th game of the day.
Yeah, Falcons only now making it through Paradise Resort. I mean, they are on the most leisurely of strolls, Imperium, in this last game. I kind of don't disagree with it, though, actually, considering how harsh this zone has been. The only real problem they're going to face, however, is position in terms of information of where these teams are.
SKYROCKET slowly, their position around that high ground of the Northwest Island is being trickled away off these circle shifts. Still no guarantee that it's going to end on either the mainland or that Northwest Island. The phase 4 shift hopefully will give these teams a bit more of a cohesive idea and it does shift up towards that kind of direct eastern side. That small, tiny island in between the two areas is still in play, but all right. Couldn't have asked for a better circle shift.
I mean, RA, if they don't roll away with this game, Imperium, what can RA do? I mean, they got close to the chicken dinner last one. They have a phenomenal opportunity to get the chicken dinner here. Major Pride, still the other team, as we said, after to get into the zone. It's a very late rotation indeed through Painan too, but yeah, they don't have to worry, Imperium. They already qualified. This is just them having a bit of fun.
Phase 4 shift is great for Falcons, by the way, as they have come in late. They're still in the blue, and they could be denied a compound inside the circle. It depends on where CONQUEROR want to go. It seems like CONQUEROR are opting for that northeastern compound that's by the crossroads. They still might be able to spot out the players of Falcons who are somewhat slow on foot down that hill outside of Paradise Resort. All right. Yeah, they're in the best position, but let's be fair. It's going to be difficult for them to make that balance between being proactive and overextending from the high ground, because if they overextend, they could get knocked and that could mean a team could push. They have to wait, be patient, and allow the teams around them to take each other out.
And it's all about information and recognition and improvement of where these teams are moving and from which directions when. Because they need to understand at the points when they could be threatened from different points in from the likes of CONQUEROR, for the likes of from RTG in one hand and 90th minute on the other, and even FALCONS, as you said, NASR on the opposite end too. So it is about timing here for R8 to make sure that they come out on top. Is 90th, unfortunately, will struggle as Jizan, the first across, will lose their life to Chain 9, but Ninja as well, also going to drop to POWR off in that flanking end.
And a little bit of deja vu is 90th minute and RTG were both in this position in yesterday's Sanhok game, and you think 90th minute would have learned that Road to Glory are the bridge trolls of Sanhok in this specific location, because they caught 90th minute off guard in yesterday's game as well.
Look, 90th, they are in a really predicament point right now, as they are swimming very vulnerable and at the mercy of these other players when they come up for their breath. In VISTA as well, going to lose one to NASR down below, as OOREDOO going for that speedy rotation across. There they go, and as they found that knock into POWR, they'll find another one. They'll even confirm away as is, but it's at the cost of one as RTG take down Dar. It is might buy some space here for OOREDOO as the zone shifts once more, you can see, to R8.
Great coordinated play by RTD. They're doing such a good job in this game. Unfortunately, the next circle will shift away and will center up on towards that northeastern side where R8 have a compound lockdown. FALCONS did make it in onto that eastern building, and it's been rewarded as they still have the full squad up.
90th, they are at the end of the line, unfortunately. J9 has had such a fantastic position here to take down every single member of 90th, single-handedly wiping them away.
So good by J9. Like, it's solo. I said it was kind of well coordinated between RTG as two players that are left, but J9 on his own done such a good job underneath that bridge.
In R8, still need now to do their own good job, because here CONQUEROR and the rest of these teams coming in closer, but FALCONS, this late rotation, this could be the surprise rotation that we were looking for, is now they opened fire to their own little bit of a skirmish here, but NASR were ones to take down GEEKAY nevertheless in the elimination feed.
Great play by FALCONS. Having a 3-1 split is kind of perfect. I know Neveralone is outside the circle, but he has a little bit more of an elevated position, and he does make it down the hill into the rest of his team, so they recognize the strength of holding on to this so the compound is a full squad. The thing is, CONQUEROR is directly across the road, and NASR is down on that southeastern side, kind of blocking both teams from engaging on each other.
Yeah, setting a few pot shots here and there as the zone will go now away from absolutely everyone, Imperium. And this is about everyone making their own move. And I think we're going to see a bit more of this, Imperium, where teams are just going to heal up and swim away like the little fishes they are. This is all really about this land battle between R8, between Conquerors, between FALCONS.
Not gonna lie, this could be a great result for Vista Gaming. They still have 3 players up. I wonder how much they've been able to pick up med-wise.
Yes.
A potential heal strat could be on board.
It could be a fantastic heal strat if they have enough. And they still got the options there of extra players, Imperium, to continue to make that push too, as FALCONS make their own push though. On into CONQUEROR, will go wide with a nade. And Molly as well, sending one each way, will bring though FALCONS even lower. Powerful needs to step back, heal back up is the rest of FALCONS. Use now the pressure of themselves to step forward into the home of CONQUEROR. Neveralone is there, making the slow push indoors, looking for the nade. He's cooking it, winning round the corner. Will look for the angle, finds Groza, almost takes down Revan. There comes the shots. Neveralone goes down, but the damage is done. Caligus on their own in the blue, and FALCONS are already searching. Damar, though, will fall to the extra tick of the blue, but Caliga is on still a run through the edge.
Tick, 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 boom, and that's going to be the end of CONQUEROR Iraq. Both of these teams are scrapping their way into the top 16 to make it into the finals, and it's going to be FALCONS that come out on top. Powerful, I believe, is still in the blue. I don't know how many meds he has. Well, all right. One of the final 3 teams left.
FALCONS stopped though by the rogues of NASR on the south end. They step up the 2 players for themselves. They steal their position into what could be a second place. NIGMA, sure, They're alive, but they're far out inside the blue, healing freak in notorious NIGMA strategy. There he is. I wonder how many he has.
Lol.
I mean, they usually have about like 25, 30. This time he's only got about 6 major damage though. And it's the end of the line shortly, but I don't think it's going to be NASR falling or R8 in third.
NASR being able to jump away. It is 2v2, so it could go either team's way. And NASR, they have a limited amount of terrain in front of them to make it into the edge of the circle, and time is running out.
NASR using though that rock for as much as they can now, separating to the next. R8 miss out on the nade, the other one will go wide, and Miracle gets themselves to the next point. Batika laying down the smoke road, and it is so awkward for R8 to finish here. Necra even goes down. NASR finds 0-1, will confirm away Cry as well. NIGMA fall away in third, but NASR, they stole away the hopes of Falcons. They might just steal away the hopes of R8 for this chicken dinner.
Great split by NASR Esports, great end game and great control.
Great potential finish. They need to finish off one more vote. Prestige repositioning, making it harder to track the spots. Batika now stepping out of the smoke, but they don't get caught, and that's crucial. R8 still in the 2v1, and that allows NASR to take the win.
Yeah, just really clean finish from NASR Esports. They certainly benefited from incredibly difficult ping pong circle shifts, as did kind of realistically Falcons as well, coming in from the eastern side of the mainland position. R8, it was always going to be difficult coming down from that compound on that northern side, but they did a great job to finish second place. 3 things are guaranteed in life, Highland Wolf: death, taxes, and Enigma Galaxy heal strat in Sanhok.
I mean, NIGMA, they make it work though every time. If you don't love it or hate it, I mean, it is an infamous but successful strategy.
Like, look, in their defense, I massively understand it in a circle like this, and genuinely, more teams need to recognize it as a viable kind of plan B on what is such tough circle shifts. It's just unfortunate for Enigma that's something they do more often than not, when I feel like they should be trying to control these circles. It is what it is, as Team Falcons pick themselves up a very important 13-point game.
Yeah, and as these type of teams do pick up those points, I think it is unfortunate that a few more of those teams that need the points Imperium did fall before the rest of them did. It was very close in terms of those coming into the final 5, but as we check out even further down away, OOREDOO Thunders sure benefiting with those 5 points, but it is very concerning. We're 90th too there too, but it is very concerning regardless that both 90th and SKYROCKET here still need a more big results, realistically, should I say 90th more so, to guarantee themselves in a position.
SKYROCKETs are good.
Yeah.
Rockets are grand. Like, 90th minute, they kind of they made their bed, and they've been kind of somewhat forced to lie in it. And when you're in a comfortable bed, it's very hard to get out of, and 90th minute are finding it very hard to get out of. To give them credit, that was genuinely their best PMPL game. It was very unfortunate that the circle shifted away. Could they have adapted better from yesterday's Sanhok game to not get punished by RTG? Yes. Still credit on what was one of their best games.
Look, we get to see it though, all of our best upper moments, of course, of that brilliant Sanhok match, Imperium, and a short break before once again we hit it back on Erangel for our final game today.
diamonds on my frozen soul. Spending all my money on expensive clothes. What's it take to get me on the radio? Slow down for me, goddamn, slow down for me. Icy boy, I'm an icy boy. Icy boy, the frozen soul. The suicide doors are looking gorgeous though. Icy boy, the frozen soul. The suicide doors are looking.
Welcome back here to what will be our final Erangel game and the final game of the second day, the final Super Weekend here, Imperium. It wouldn't be without, of course, Oppo with the upgrade performance and upgraded fun.
Ooh, yeah.
Celebrate your winning performance with the brand new Oppo Reno 7 Pro 5G, the designated smartphones for PUBG Middle East and Africa Esports 2022. Also, you want some rewards yourself in-game too? Well, what's better than a grand banquet, get ingredients to make more dishes? Let's share and spread our happiness as well. They come at an even discounted price. Imperium group purchase for a draw for a discount for free every day. You can get up to 70% off Imperium.
Indeed, indeed. As we get into the final game of the day, the overall standings are shifting a little bit. Again, the top 8 is absolutely no problem. Triple Esports a little bit of a struggle bus, but they do still find themselves in 6th place. I find it somewhat surprising that Twisted Minds have been able to hold on to the top 8 for now, at least.
Look, I mean, they're keeping themselves up there. It may look like they might fall down to that second half, though, given time.
Yeah, they will. They will. Let's take a look at the second page. The most important page so far, arguably, in this overall standings. I said SKYROCKET, they're secured. They've jumped even ahead of 4K at this stage. So, boom, absolutely no problem there. OOREDOO Thunders, I said they're good. They're only 5 points behind 4K.
Yeah.
The threat is still between Iraq, CONQUEROR, RAD, and Falcons. Yes, at the moment, they still hold on to the top 16. And even though the only one in the 90th minute haven't exactly done that well, they're still somewhat within the shooting distance.
What amazes me is if the stars align and the only one get good games now coming into the future, Falcons, CONQUEROR continue on their trend to at least pick up the points as necessary. This could be, I think, the first time that I've ever seen a cutoff reached 200 points in Imperium. That's how close we're kind of really getting. I mean, sure, RAD 193, but if you get close enough towards that mark, it's practically there.
It's not going to be a cutoff point of 200 points. The reason why, and okay, it might get super close to it, but it's not going to be. You know why? Because unfortunately, I don't have a lot of trust in the only one getting up to that 200 point mark. As you look at the third page, you're on 167. They have 39 games. They scored 0 in the previous game. Not only are they putting themselves further away from Falcons, but they're not even doing really enough to get up to Rad's position. And then you look at Vista Gaming, they've fallen down a tiny bit. And even though it's still within their grasp, over the last 2 to 3 games, they haven't hit the marks that they needed to.
Yeah, as we hit our final Erangel game, as we said, of today, I feel like for only one, you make a great point. 39 games, Imperium. They're the only team right now that have had 3 Super Weekends that is not only struggling in terms of the bottom half of the leaderboard, probably one of the only teams that are there even past the first page.
And I saw this happening. I genuinely did. Right after the first Super Weekend, I could have predicted this, as in I like would have bet my beard on it if I was pushed
That's
to that
a big
limit,
bet.
because their playstyle trend in league play was go for placement points and go for the safety of the Super Weekend, which, hey, that's fine. But in the Super Weekend, they were being battered, bruised, they were being bullied because they weren't being aggressive enough. And yes, I will give them an element of credit in today's games. They've looked a little bit more aggressive. But because they haven't shown any kind of adaptation up until this point. They're still a little bit out of their depths.
Yeah, I mean, okay, Imperium, you make up an excellent point, because now that you said you bet your beard on something, I'm wondering like what you would bet your beard on, because I feel like that's a good game that we could play that I would enjoy.
No,
Like-
no.
like-
Sorry,
Monica might
as much
enjoy
as I
it.
love
like-
casting PMPL Arabia, I'm not putting my beard online for
Oh.
PMPL Arabia. I gave it as a hypothetical because if it was
Yeah.
forced upon me, you don't have to force me to do anything.
What about like
Me?
future events though? You said only PMPL Arabia.
Look,
Is that like a line for the future?
Maybe PMGC if it was exciting enough. you know,
Someone write it
maybe,
down.
Maybe.
Someone remind him in 6 months'
My-
time. Like
My girlfriend might break up with me if I do, but yeah, you know.
Okay, I feel like sympathetic enough that I won't like pressure you then at heart. Like I feel like
There you go. Thank you
you've
very
drawn
much.
this, you've drawn like this sympathy card out of me.
throw the girlfriend into the mix and it draws a sympathy card. It's brilliant. Phase 1 pops up, and a little bit similar to, unfortunately, phase 1 of the previous Erangel game. So it might give these teams a little bit of PSCD off the fact that it could be a military island finish.
Look, I mean the military island finish. I want it to happen, okay? Like I need it to happen, and I've almost been disappointed. Like I love the Highland Hills name, okay, sure, but like if you're gonna go away from Gatka, you've got to be able to at least give me something that's evil. Like I liked third game. Third game was like good amounts of evil, but I need to see it more consistently, because you know how mean of a person I am, Imperium.
Told you, I'm trying to balance it out, man. I'm trying
No,
to
I don't like
cancel their
it.
evil out. No, sorry, man, but you know, it's just I am the angel of this duo,
Yeah.
and you're the
Someone
devil. It's
get
just,
Monica
you know.
in here. I've had enough. I need Monica for the
No,
evil.
sorry.
Monica's way
No,
evil.
no,
Like-
no, Monica. No, Monica's allowed. Anybody with the name Monica is not allowed on this
Yeah.
broadcast today.
Okay, well, later, like, so me and Monica next time we cast is like the last day, I believe, of the tournament. So at least we like get it off with an evil bang at the end, right? It's something to look forward to.
Oh God, sorry, teams in advance. I'm sorry. I do my
Final
best
day of the
here,
finals to decide a champion, and me and Monica are casting in the future. Ah, what have they done?
You know,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
the two of you
It's a
just
true weapon.
sadistically laughing in the face of all of these team struggles. These are monsters, I tells you, absolute monsters.
Look, I mean, it's not over to the fat lady things that you said, Imperium. As you're saying, and we're only in phase 1, baby.
And Monica flaming me in the group chat. Stop it, Monica. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. What I do like is how these teams are starting to move in to the circle off the back of the phase 1 blue zone. Starting now to move in slowly but surely. Major Pride shifting away from South Georgia relatively early and moving closer to kind of Power Esports position. It's a good way to kind of keep Power Esports on their tails to an extent, and just to kind of push Power Esports further into the circle. NIGMA not going for NASR's kind of challenge outside of school
Yes.
in this game, so they are back in Pachinki.
Look, I think it was more of a meme, like, I'll go and contest you and we'll see what happens since we've already qualified, and try out those different strategies, as you said, Imperium. I think for the rest of it, I'm surprised actually that we've not seen more of those types of challenges. I really think that some of these teams, of course, in the top 8, yeah, sure, as much as they're going for the prize money, maybe I'm just too evil, right? That I want them just to focus on some of these lower teams, and I want them to really put the pressure on them all.
Yeah, of course. You always want teams to put the pressure on, whether it's on one direct team or whether it's on the lobby as a whole. So yeah, it's there's nothing wrong with that. Keeping teams on their toes is a massive part of not only trying to second guess them and kind of live in their heads rent free to an extent, but also work on your own gameplay. YALLA being a little bit up and down across these games in this first Super Weekend. For example, yesterday they started with a run of 1-1-1-1. Sorry, 1-1-1. Then they got a 26-point chicken dinner Sanhok, and they ended the day in a 1-pointer. So they got 4 1-point games and then a chicken dinner. Their Super Weekend number 3 has been massively up and down.
And that consistency definitely does need to improve, I think, for not only YALLA, but a plethora of these teams coming into the finals. And show, as we say, they've got the time to continue to adapt and practice on these strategies. But you have to remember that even though teams are obviously focusing on the likes of Erangel today and tomorrow, the finals is 33% for every single one of these maps. So the best of the best and the champion has to be good at, holistically, all 3 of these different maps.
Exactly. Said that better myself. Falcons rotating away from Yasnaya for the most part. Neverlone still kind of hanging around the southern edge of Yasnaya. Vista Gaming in a 3-1 split. A tricky 3-1 split. I don't like how far away their teammate is. Kind of locked inside farm. Hopefully no team kind of crashes directly on his building.
CONQUEROR getting very, very close, though, towards Vista. Shouldn't be too much of an issue. The buildings do blockade a line of sight from each other. Chopper spying out the side angle, will try to spray down, but amounts to no bullets hitting. Chopper gonna hit one to the side of the shoulder, but it's both of them just accepting that they are on each other's back. Is Vista continuing to fire vote down? Not quite done just now, as the rest of CONQUEROR will send another member over to that location. Also, you have to remember that Triple are around the area, and more teams naturally are going to position around this more central belt at the end of phase 1. There are a few later rotating teams, however, Imperium. We always have to keep in mind likes of the Major Prides, the R8s, also the YALLAs, of course, rotating later on when it comes to those second, third phases.
Yeah. Exactly. What I find interesting is that Major Pride scale back into South George. I'm kind of curious as to, why they went backwards. I know with it being a very eastern phase on circle, it was always going to be a little bit of a challenge for them to, let's say, rotate super early, but going kind of in alongside the blue allows them to get information as early as possible without kind of getting into a sticky situation. All right, in a bit of a similar situation, but they didn't go as kind of close in towards the edge of the circle as Major Pride had a couple of minutes ago. SKYROCKET's still in Novo is interesting, but also makes sense.
No, I'll accept a Milsa finish as well. I quite like Milsa as a location, also because it's naturally quite annoying to rotate around. I mean, actually, to be fair, okay, I wouldn't be opposed to like a prison finish. I mean, I like these locations. I like the possibilities. They are drawing me into the potential evil opportunities.
Lumberyard Hill is the best place to be in.
Yeah.
The only one have that area somewhat locked down, which is certainly a good thing. Vista Gaming, they had a 3-1 split. They sent the rest of the team up towards the farm area where that solo player was. Not a bad thing, but they have to be aware it does come with consequences in the form of CONQUEROR rack.
No, I mean, it was Zute who actually reminded me that Lumberyard was like your favorite position, right, on the Erangel?
It's one of my favorite positions. It definitely
wow.
is. I think it's better than Prison Hill. Because Prison Hill has like so many. Well, no, because Prison Hill, just in terms of locking it down, because Prison Hill has kind of so many different elevation points that it's a little bit harder to be super confident of what's around you. And it's a little bit easier to get caught out of. So Lumberyard to me is just a bit of a nicer place in the early game to have in your favor.
Look, if I was a movie guy, I would also be looking at 90th Jabal getting shot down, but they've done like this kind of overview panning shot of Lumberyard, and then I would like link that to the conclusion of the Erangel film to where we finish on Lumberyard itself. Imperium, I like where this is going. Is POWR though stuck in between the midst part of this game and how they will play out, whereas his 90th on the edge here seems to be a 90th hand as they're falling, and POWR, they got 2 eliminations, they're coming out on top.
Well, the next scene is indeed 90th minute being punished, beaten down, and
Yeah.
broken up by POWR Esports coming in from that western side. They played through the GEEKAY split. They now move down towards the southwest of Pachiki, and this is genuinely a bit of a familiar pathline by POWR Esports. So 90th minute, they just continue to struggle, and like a little bit like the only one, they are just massively out of their depth in this lobby, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's quite sad to say actually, because I really wanted to see something more from them, and I wanted to see more from every team. And I said this the last day I was casting as well, Imperium. It's always a shame to see teams kind of fade away and kind of go out with a whimper. But POWR, they've also, to be fair to them, have looked very phenomenal when they have played well, and they are still a definite difficult opponent to go up against.
Yeah, they are. Like, POWR Esports are not a team to mess with, in the sense of you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, and they will push you in a big way. At times it does go against them because, like I've observed, they play a little bit split. But I really like the risks that they do look to take. The next circle is about to pop up. It's going to be phase 3. A lot of teams in the center part of this map. NASR on a kind of shelter split. Like I said, the only one in Lumberyard, and Prison Hill is dominated either side between Falcons and YALLA.
90th, unfortunately, Choto's down to the only one, and POWR gonna power them through the window and out of this game. 90th minute out first, but still can't take. They did lose one, so Choto came out with a little bit of a bang at the end.
Beautiful central circle shift, by the way, right on top of kind of Prison Hill Lumberyard. So certainly the storyline, the plot of this Erangel movie is going somewhat in the favor of what we would like to see as an ending. We certainly won't look to be disappointed. NASR are going to have VISTA pushing up on them. VISTA already lost a player. They're about to lose a second.
And NASR coming up even further. Unfortunately, this don't look good for VISTA. They need these points, and they're losing hope. They're losing opportunity. It's down to only one player. Adley is going to fall, but so Sunrise doesn't matter. Down to one. NASR down to 2, though. They're making it work. The defense is hitting it, but it's not enough. VISTA will fall at the end.
Oh, VISTA. It's so difficult. I'm going to reserve negativity because of what they've done so far, and it's sad to see the dream fall apart because of their own doing. Nice defense by NASR on that crash, by the way. You do see outside the circle, NIGMA and POWR getting a little bit closer to each other around the farm area. And
oh, no.
Oh, no.
I mean, I was going to compliment Triple's brilliant use of one of their mollies to take out NASR's fallen man, but then they do it to themselves. I mean, it's excellent to watch it.
It genuinely is really good defense from NASR, and composure to not only fend off one team, but as quickly as possible have another team breach on up. That can at times overwhelm teams, and then they make mistakes to go out of position, and they don't really know what to do. So between IGL ability and just general team coordination, that was a great response against the likes of Triple.
Definitely expect that against, of course, for one of our more veteran organizations that are such a staple name to the PMPL Arabia 2 Imperium, and another one of those staple names who need those points still. CONQUEROR still fighting, and they are in a peculiar spot here towards the south of Milta. It's a zone that kind of centralized more around these hills, up towards Prison, up towards the mansion South Hills itself.
SKYROCKET's entering in around that south edge of the Milta hillside, leading up to Lumberyard, to be fair. R8 on the eastern side. What a wraparound by R8, by the way. They were on North George. They stuck to the north of the river across the first 2 circles. They've made an absolutely fantastic variable rotation onto the southeastern side of the circle. Little bit similar to Major Pride, but definitely ahead of the curve in that regard.
And I liked that rotation, considering the R8. I remember back a season ago, I had to hold my point here and then, because the only one Enigma are all but mounting an engagement here in The only one don't want it though, so I will get to go on my point. And R8 in that spring split, Imperium, we've criticized their rotations, I think, when it came to the southern and eastern points.
Yeah.
They just couldn't get to that mark. And to see them now make that improvement, I want to see that more often, because R8, I like these improvements that we see coming through from them.
The only one got very, very lucky. Off the circle shifting and centralizing around that lumberyard, they should have been quicker to join back up as a full squad. They've been able to get away from NIGMA, but now I believe that's GEEKAY that are kind of swinging around in between both teams. SKYROCKET mounting and engaging on OOREDOO Thunders.
Unfortunately, OOREDOO only going to be a 1-for-1 trade, but SKYROCKETs do go down and they lose their player inside the main part. So Triple R down off the high ground, won't be able to support, and there comes the second elimination for OOREDOO.
SKYROCKETs focused too much on the southern edge of the circle and they didn't watch their backs. OOREDOO Thunders came in late and made them pay. Great play by OOREDOO Thunders.
And still, even they continue here as the south side. Conqueror 2 stepping up. They did lose Gross. Easy was able to find that initial knock, but a revive will come through, judging the two players were there. But elsewhere, Triple R is slowly navigating a fight. We're still already keep in mind, as we say, that third-party potential.
Falcons have a tricky entry point on the northwestern edge of the circle because it's not really in a comfortable high ground position off the side of Lumberyard Hill, and plus they have the remaining players in NASR and POWR Esports swinging in from the west as well.
And OOREDOO stepping up. They have now aggressed themselves to the top of the hill, and Triple R looks next on the menu right now as they hide behind a tree, but for how much longer is both of the OOREDOO members coming in side by side, but very much focused, of course, on the members of Conqueror ahead of him, and steps out Triple R, looks for the main point of that elimination, but that's all they'll get. Triple R will go down as a result of it, but nevertheless, OOREDOO down one weaker.
CONQUEROR, what are you doing? Guys, you're just kind of driving around minding your own business. Like, come on, get your crap together. Like, you lost a player to RGG. Two of your players are inside a vehicle, really having no idea what to do. You hear shots around you. Don't be so wild.
Well, they've got to be able to be more controlled here. SKYROCKETs is a 1v2. Imperium, they should be able to get this. I mean, OOREDOO, sure, they're there, but they are much lower on the hillside. And Easy still finds it.
Come
I mean,
on.
Conqueror, they need these points. Imperium, sure, they must be the highest of the three, yes. But to confirm that spot into the finals, they do need to get there further.
A nade goes in your direction, you're frantically just pacing into the circle, but a nade goes in your direction,
come on.
and you prone down? You prone down? Are you serious, CONQUEROR? I don't think I've ever been so frustrated by a CONQUEROR play, because again, I know they're so much better than this, and now they have one player up. Like I said, they stuttered and spluttered their way across this Super Weekend, and yes, okay, they might be looking comfortable-ish. Again, it's not the play that I need to see.
Yeah, I mean, that was quite simply a microcosm of Conqueror so far this week in Triple. Unfortunately for them, they are under a bit of pressure here, but very much needed points for Falcons. And remember here, Imperium, Falcons are in 16th position. Yes, the only one haven't looked super flashy. Yeah, but Falcons, they still need to make sure they get there themselves. And this is a way to do it. But Triple already up to 7 eliminations, are looking very strong once more.
Across the last game, across this game, and even one or two other games today, it's been a tiny bit of an upward trend for Falcons, so I will throw a little bit of a credit their way. I will throw a bone their way, per se. You have to be very careful on your entry point into these last couple of circles. I said it was tricky, but credit where it's due. They've got a bit of a job done. Their next challenge is going to be Triple Esports, though.
And I mean, credit where it's due as well for Triple. Imperium, they've been playing on Erangel particularly very strong so far this Super Weekend and in today. And I think Triple, when they have these games, just look like such an aggressive team. And it reminds me all the way back to even that one Super Weekend in Spring Split, where they were able to get all those points off the eliminations. Is even the only one chipping in for one of their own, and YALLA will lose a player.
They've had to get involved. They've had to start to get hungry. into this game. They've NIGMA coming in from their backside, and they've already lost a player, so it's only going to get tougher for the Only One Esports.
They need to stay close. They need to stay in a strong mindset because they need those points. They need this game, a good game here, Imperium, set them up for tomorrow. Mentally, could be such a boost for them. GEEKAY, Major Pride on the edge. It's more of a pity fight, see who comes out on top, but Major, they will come out on top. They add the members, and GEEKAY will fall once more.
All right, we'll get information off the back of this, and I don't know how much R8 have been able to track the fact that Major Pride have kind of had a player go down and RTG do third party to get a knock on the R8, but still Triple Esports looking to defend against Falcons.
Triple, they make this revive count though on the edge, the smoke road laid in once more down, but a different angle, and Falcons just cannot catch the eye through onto Triple, slowly navigating this hill. Upwards and behind Falcons have been chasing him for the last few minutes here and will be rewarded with another knock onto Never Alone.
Nice play by the side of Triple Esports. Falcons have opted to go away from Triple Esports, trying to stay in the edge of the circle, but now as they're down to 2 players, and we're at this stage of the game where the teams can somewhat third party each other, shots are being laid out, and Triple Esports are on the prowl against both Falcons and NIGMA Galaxy.
If Falcons are in a horrible position, pinned in between the logs, a car, they could still be blowing into smithereens on top of their faces. And it is all about Falcons trying to survive as best they can. Triple, at least mainly occupied for now between NIGMA, but still Falcons are there, laid down the mega smokes, trying to get himself across the roadside. But YALLA, they will get themselves sent into tomorrow as NIGMA, a brilliant nade across the top.
I'm so surprised that NIGMA have allowed the Only One to kind of stay alive and they didn't push them a circle or two ago, because again, that was the point where it was a little bit more of an isolated fight. Now, we're at that point with 9 teams left alive, anybody can third party on each other.
And the Only One are trying their best, but it's really just a point of we're going to move into the zone, we're going to try to survive, but it's not calculated. At least Luffy's trying to make something work, but it's just all over the place for the Only One. They get punished by NIGMA for it.
It's still an okay game for the Only One, but 2 points with, I believe, only 1 elimination. No way, Jose. Once again, a splutter of a result. 7 teams are left alive. 17 players. SKYROCKET's the final player, by the way. Still on his own, still in this game, in the center of the circle.
Well, I mean, NIGMA, they moved over to the Only One. It buys Falcons the time, and all of them just left Falcons alone. Now, Triple have lost one of their members, but it doesn't deny the fact of still a solid game by them. 10 eliminations is for zone, still keeps everyone really in this game.
I really like this from Triple Esports, because even though you kind of look at it and go, oh, well, maybe they could have and should have committed more towards Falcons, and NIGMA taking the shots when they did and pushing Falcons away technically allowed them to now focus on OOREDOO Thunders, and as they get the squad out, it gives them a bit more control on that southwestern edge, which is on that low ground and by that sniper tower. Good job by Triple Esports.
And gets them away from a lot of those other teams too. If they still aren't in a good position, that's still looking up for that skirmish position, Imperium. So actually for the rest of Triple, they should be able to survive at least for a little bit longer in this game, whether that be into the top 5, we hope, but maybe even further. It is still SKYROCKETs from the edge of Conqueror's demise, sat inside of that edge of the cliff face. The rest of them still coming up to the top though.
You wouldn't think with 11 players left that there's still 6 teams alive, but with 3-2-2-2-1-1, it's going to be a scrappy finish.
Falcons as well, of course, still up, and NIGMA still Hamodi looking behind and very smartly aware the Falcons are still alive here. We'll drink the energy drink for now. Falcons also peering over the top, but it's a slow approach indeed.
You can see that's why Triple Esports focus on that southwestern side, because it's low ground, and playing on the high ground where Falcons are is so difficult to push down into the edge of the circle.
All of the teams not willing to move, though. About, say, 7. Still 6 teams, as you say, alive, Imperium. 2, 3 of them are really inside the zone, but it means that there are still those players outside.
SKYROCKETs as a solo could potentially steal a chicken dinner. Just putting that out there.
I mean, if they get it, They get it. It is well rewarded, but they are in such a open position. It's really just a small dip that keeps them hidden away from the rest of these players. And as you would say, maybe Imperium, it's a matter of time until someone checks there and the fire opens up. But nevertheless, Easy could be the catalyst. It does send all of these teams into that fight.
Triple down to a solo. They picked up 11 eliminations in this game so far, so either way, it's been an absolutely fantastic result for the side in the final game of the day as RTG down on the southern edge. They have the best position inside the circle.
Everyone's still not moving. Everyone's still not firing. It is finally, though, Triple stepping up, doing what needs to be done, and we'll find the 1v2 onto RTG. That sends everyone into a spiral, and NIGMA's gonna find 2 Falcons, and now down to 4 teams remaining.
It was a matter of time. Triple and Falcon are going to be the first to fall. Enigma have a 2-1 split. That could be the game-winning split, as there's only 3 teams left around them.
Spiral beginning to slow down, but into its fast conclusion. R8 overlooking the rest of NIGMA. They know exactly the position that they lie in. Hamodi off the flank, keeping an eye on Clever. Clever, though,
Does he see
spies a car. I know, right? That's the thing. Is it Clever looking on NIGMA or the other way around?
The rug has been pulled firmly away from Enigma Galaxy's 2-1 split. Because either way, they're stuck going down the hill. They know for a fact that there's teams directly in front of them.
That's why NIGMA will refuse to move. They are going to let the blue zone collide in 10 more seconds or so. NIGMA holding firm. You can see the rest of the positions. Triple also, though, running out of breathing room. So our rated zone coming in. Enigma send it down into the zone. There's Easy, though. You said that solo player still not firing, still not giving away the spot. They're going to get into third because our rate will fall next. Enigma solidify their position. They get down and dirty.
Fantastic by Enigma Galaxy. All it took was one knock onto R8 for them to make that push down the hill with the vehicles onto the rest of R8. But Easy has yet to be spotted. He gets the knock. He's looking for more.
He's looking for more, but the car's smoking away by soon. Enigma he's only got those vehicles to protect him against him. Triple Clever, though. Just have a solo. These solos on the side is a problem for Enigma, and they've still even got a nade on board. Easy has the utility. Clever stepping up. Distraction necessary. Sure, but it will bring Enigma down into a 1v1. And Easy, you may have joked if they steal away this chicken dinner, but can they find it? It's Hamodi looking up and gets it. It's SKYROCKET who take the 3rd chicken dinner of the day. Imperium, they have been phenomenal on Erangel.
Yes! What a chicken dinner for the final player of SKYROCKET. I swear to God, I put it out there because not only did he have that little bit of a dip, because it was just SKYROCKET, and I was like, he could get that chicken dinner. By golly, he got the job done. Look, I don't hold it against NIGMA Galaxy because they didn't know he was there, and there was the final player, Triple Esports, that they were distracted by. However, the glaring mistake by NIGMA Galaxy is that as soon as they saw the shots and that first knock went against them, they should have pushed that player and left the final player, Triple Esports, there, deal with them one at a time.
Let's check out those match rankings from that final game. Imperium, I mean, okay, Triple get those top positions, 14 eliminations for them, fantastic. NIGMA there also getting those 10, but SKYROCKET's getting that win, 3 Erangel wins of the day, and also to even highlight further, Easy on part of that team, not just in this game, looking back all the way into the 3rd game, even into the 1st game Imperium, when they had that fantastic clutch onto NIGMA, onto VISTA at the start of today, has been on another level for their team.
Bruh, so good, man. SKYROCKET's just stole that game and stole $1,000 away from NIGMA Galaxy. Great game by Triple Esports. Those 14 elimination points were just deserved in the 24 in total. Team Falcons, it's a little bit steadier. Again, I kind of highlighted through the game. Got to give them credit. 9 points in that game, 7 in the previous game. Is it the double-digit heights that I would like them to see and that I believe they can easily get?
Yeah.
No, it's not. But in terms of compared to like the CONQUEROR, it's a hell of a lot more stable.
Look, I mean, these teams, still a lot of them stepping up. Maybe, yeah, sure, Conqueror, not so much there on that second page. But these teams in the bottom half in the elimination zone, I mean, Vista, 90th, all falling down. Sure, Conqueror are going to struggle, but I think they might jump it and kind of bound their way barely over that finish line to the finals. It at least opens
Yeah.
up the opportunities for the likes of Falcons too, with, as we say, though, 90th and Vista having a bad game
Yeah.
here and once more really not looking that great to get also over that finish line too.
There's really no reason why the only one in tomorrow's fight. When I say there's no
Yeah.
reason. I have a couple of reasons that I've already pointed out, but fundamentally, as we take a look at the overall standings, the only team that's in their way is the non-moving team of RAD. 90s minute haven't done enough. Vista haven't done enough to in any way put pressure on the only one. They have literally a dummy, right? A dummy. No,
Yes.
no, by the way, no disrespect to RAD. I don't mean that in a literal sense. I mean it in terms of, those practice target dummies.
Yeah.
That's what they have in front of them, right? It's a non-moving target. It should be possible.
And I just feel like for the only one, they still need to show us just a different level. And we have seen that level before, but it has been almost a so rare occurrence. It is like trying to search for a diamond in the rough for the skill that the only one could show.
Well, there's no diamonds in the rough, to be fair, across the top 8. All right, massive respect to them. They moved ahead of Major Pride. They've clearly kind of worked on a couple of elements of their gameplay. Are they still kind of relying possibly a little bit too heavily on placement points? Yeah, but I could definitely say the same for NIGMA Galaxy in second place. I recognize again that all right, compared to the Spring Split as well, I can see that they're testing different plays, that they're trying different elements of playstyle and rotations, and that variable wide rotation from the northwest to the southeast was so clean to see in this final game.
Yeah, in this second page, though, here, Imperium, this is where it changes. In Rad now down in that 16th position. As you say, they are the target for the only one to get to, but Falcons and CONQUEROR Iraq rising now up into those 14th and 15th positions should, I would argue, be secured into the final.
Only because the only one in 90th minute have performed far worse, right?
Right.
There is also a massive benefit in the fact that both teams are 15 and 18 points respectfully behind 4K, who are not playing in this game. And that means that it's going to be that kind of non-moving target again to jump ahead of and really solidify their spot in the finals. SKYROCKET, they've been
Phenomenal today.
They've been phenomenal today. 3 chicken dinners, like you said, it puts them on 4 in total. Jumping up to SKYROCKET, jumping up close to Road to Glory, who have had, I might add, 15 extra games in them. Really incredible performance from SKYROCKET.
Yeah, really, really impressed with SKYROCKET been going, especially considering that we saw them teeter off at the start, but this is what we wanted to see right at the very beginning of the tournament, Imperium, this big guns effort, and that's also what we're going to need to see through from the only one, as we say tomorrow, because everything is on them. They need to reach 194 points to guarantee themselves in. It's doable. It's very doable.
It's so doable.
But they need to be able to step up.
The only time I will talk about the only one esports total points in a nice way is the total points they have of 169. Nice. But in terms of what they've hit average across the games they played, like what they have 169 points in 40 games, that's an average, Highland Wolf, of as I do my quick maths on my calculator, and definitely definitely not using a calculator. At this
Definitely
stage.
not.
Definitely not looking
cheating.
at my
So in the
computer
mind.
game.
He's so smart.
It's an average of 4.2 points per game, right?
Yeah.
So if you take that 4.2 points per game, okay, and you do some more quick maths and you multiply that by 5, that's only 25 points, right? You add that to 169, that only puts them on 194 points. When I say only, it's still
Gets him over the
speculatively
line.
calculated, gets them over line. But let's be fair. Let's be fair. I can easily see them get less than that. So, man, you only technically need one good result.
Yeah, right.
You haven't
like,
done it so far.
This is it. That's the craziest part. But you just need one game. But if you want to get your own stuff in game, make sure, of course, to check out the Grand Banquet and get readings to make more dishes. Let's share and spread our happiness. Let's share the hype, I believe, for the only one. Because, I mean, with Vista gone, like, we need a new underdog Imperium. We need something else. And also, if you want in-game something else, a group purchase, draw for a discount for free every day. And I always feel like it's possible. Anything could happen. Sure. I mean, there could also be anything, really, as we say,
Yeah.
for these teams to come out.
And look, I do still want to put Vista into the mix. It's a wild mix as they're on 98 points in 10 games. That's an average of 9.8. That's not really going to be enough to get them ahead of Rad. However, out of them 90th minute and the only one so far this Super Weekend, they're the only team out of those three who have put up massive performances. It's been a poor day today for them. Genuinely, and they've felt the heat, they've made mistakes. I'm hoping they can dig their heels in and put on a hell of a show, because I'm here for it, man. I'm still on that Vista gaming train.
Look, every one of them's got to rise like a phoenix from the ashes in our final 5 games tomorrow, same time, same place to decide who goes to the finals. Don't go and ignore it, because it's going to be an epic one.